All right, welcome to the show that never ends. The XB2 episode 307, which just reminded me that I have not changed that in the title yet because I think I still have it as episode 207. Shame on me.
Incorrect.
It's incorrect. We're 100 episodes off. Who are we? Xbox era? Only 200 episodes? I'll change it later. But everybody knows it's 300 episodes. Hi. Hope everybody's having a great Friday, the beginning of the weekend. I'm one of your hosts, Randall Thor19, the man with the million. And with me, as usual, we have the one and only managing editor of Windows Central, Jez freaking Corden.
Is that like Seth freaking Rollins?
Yeah.
Jez freaking Corden.
Jez freaking Corden. Mm-hmm.
Jez freaking Corden. Yes, Rand. Hello and welcome everybody to the latest Xbox 2 episode. It's been a slow week. I mean, for gaming news and stuff. I mean, things have happened, I guess, but I kind of feel like we're in that pre-E3 lull. Well, I know E3's dead, but like the pre-Summer Game Fest lull. What do we want to call the summer marketing beat now? Because everyone's got their own show now. It's not E3. It's not really Summer Game Fest. What is it? It's just the summer marketing blowout from June, and it kind of feels like we're in that sort of holding pattern where they're sort of lining up. I suppose what they want to announce, and so maybe they're holding some stuff back. I don't know, but it doesn't feel like there's a lot going on. But that hasn't stopped us in the past, has it, Rand?
No. But in the past, at least for the last 2 years, there's always that specter of ABK in the background that you could talk about if you wanted to, because that was going on forever. Although there is a little ABK side story today, because Hazardor exposed, as he said to me in my DMs, like I unwittingly exposed Jim Ryan or something, because his tweet went viral about the one and only Jim Ryan, who's leaving PlayStation, I believe, next month, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Nerds and Other Legends says Showcase Season. Maybe that's like the better.
Yeah, I like that.
The better way to do it, right? Shout out to the newest member of the channel. We got Big Willy Wonka. Thank you for hitting the join button. I gotta find out a way how to enable like giftings of like memberships, because for whatever reason it's not enabled on my channel, and I don't know why. I'll have to like do a deep dive into it. But yes, Jones says smash the like button. Please do that. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't to the channel already, and let everybody know that we are live. You know, Jez didn't realize that we were starting now because my clocks in the U.S., if you live anywhere in the United States except for maybe Arizona, clocks move forward this past weekend on Sunday. So it went from 2 a.m. to 3 a.m., and I hate it. Like, I like it when it moves backwards, because I'm a kind of weird person, Jez. I like it when it's...
Oh, we know that.
Yeah, we know that. I like it when it's lighter earlier and darker earlier. Like, I loved it growing up.
That is weird.
In high school and before, when like it was pitch black at 6 p.m. I loved it so much. But I don't like this where it's like light at like 8 p.m. It's not getting light at 8 p.m. just yet. That'll happen around June, but I like it darker earlier. Maybe that's just me. It's my personality. I don't know, but I always enjoyed
the Dark Knight.
There was always just something really cool, you know, when you were in high school and you're driving around with your friends or whatever, and it's like pitch black out, and you're like, oh man, you know, I got a curfew. I got to be home by 11 p.m. or whatever. It's like, oh man, it's already all dark. But then you look at the clock and it's only like 8 o'clock, and you're like, yes, I still got 3 hours. You know, I love that. I used to really love that. Plus, fall's my favorite time of the... Well, not winter, but fall's my favorite time of the year anyways. But yeah, so clocks move forward. Everybody hates losing an hour of sleep. Everybody loves gaining an hour of sleep. Everybody loves when it's like 2 o'clock and goes back to 1, except for the people that are working, because I don't think they get extra time for that, or maybe I forget. But either way, we have clocks went forward here, and Jez forgot, even though I told him last week. So when I messaged him on Discord, I'm like, don't forget, podcast is an hour earlier today, in an hour, and he's like, what? I don't know if I'm at a restaurant right now, bro. What were you doing?
Rip. Eating. Food.
What'd you have? Beans, toast?
I had spaghetti carbonara.
Spaghetti carbonara.
A nice wine.
Hmm.
A lot of Italian restaurants where we live because it's, close-ish to the border, I guess, with Italy.
Hmm.
Yeah. Went for a little... But hey, we made it on time. That's the main thing, right? We got there in the end.
Got there in the end. Shout out to the one and only Gazimus. Gaz is in the chat. He just rebranded his account. Yeah, Gaz, Septic Sauce. He rebranded his account, and he's doing big things now. Big things. Streaming Sekiro, which I enjoy watching Gaz get destroyed constantly. Like he was fighting Genshiro in Sekiro. And boy, I think he fought him for like an hour and just got his destroyed. Even though he like had skipped Lady Butterfly, so he wasn't as powerful as he could have been. But it was just like not, and he almost beat him. He was like one little tiny hair away from beating him, and he died.
Oh no!
Those are the worst when you have no health and the boss, and you're like going to chipping after the boss, and it's like you're about to break his poise, and he got you. Plus, he didn't buy the Mikiri counter yet, so he's not like murking the enemies that use it, which makes it a little bit easier. But yeah, Gaz is rebranded. Make sure you check out his stuff. I think he released a new video today talking about hypocrisy, I guess, from Jim Ryan and Sean Layden. You know how they do that.
So. Favorite topic.
My favorite topic indeed. So, Jez, how was your week? What'd you get up to?
Good, man.
What have you been doing, basically?
I actually can't tell you what I've been doing this week.
Secrets. Secrets, huh?
Secrets. Under embargo.
Uh-huh.
Under embargo, can't tell you, and all that kind of stuff. But I have been playing an upcoming game religiously for the past week.
I wonder what it could be.
Yeah.
I wonder what it could be.
Could be a lot of things. I've actually been playing a couple of upcoming games. So it could... Actually, I've been playing 3 upcoming games. So it could be any one of those I'm talking about. But I can't talk about any of them at the moment. Oh, actually, can I talk about one of them? I think I can talk about No Rest for the Wicked. I've been playing No Rest for the Wicked a little bit. Which is the next game from Moon Studios, or in the Blind Forest, or in the Will of the Wisps. I'm gonna have a preview. I haven't played enough really to give a full take on it yet, but I should have a preview of that up next week. And maybe I'm gonna ask PR if we can have some gameplay footage on the next week's show, maybe for No Rest for the Wicked.
That'd be good.
So that could be cool. So it's like it's an isometric Souls-like, from what I understand, what I've heard about it. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about getting more in depth with that. But then the other 2 games are review embargo, so I can't talk about those. That's pretty much what I've been up to.
Speaking of Moon Studios,
been up to?
Well, speaking of Moon Studios, I think people have seen that I got some gameplay up here of Ori and the Will of the Wisps, and the reason I did it was because it's the 4-year anniversary of this game releasing, and it was my favorite game that Xbox published last generation. You could maybe even make the argument it's the best Xbox game ever. You could put it. You could put it in the
make that argument.
Like if you were to make a list of the best Xbox exclusives, and I know exclusive is kind of like everything's on PC. It's not really whatever. You know what I mean? Like a game made either by a first-party studio or published by Microsoft. Like if you were listing the games and like what was the best, I think you could have Ori in like top 5. For sure. Like
you've just given me an article idea. I might do an article where it's like ranking the top 100 Xbox.
What would be your top 5 Xbox games from going all the way back to the OG Xbox to now? Like first party, published. What would be your 5?
I think Ori and the Blind Forest and Ori and the Will of the Wisps probably are 1 and 2. To be honest,
1 and 2 for you personally.
Yeah, Will of the Wisps being number 1. Okay. They are just spectacular games. I'm a Metroidvania dude in general, so yeah, I absolutely love those games. On the spot though, I mean, I need to think about it a bit.
Well, okay, let's do it easier. You can. I know people will be like, "Well, Halo 2, Halo 3," but you can only pick your favorite one from a franchise.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Halo
for me,
guy, so I think people
so
know
for
that.
me, it's Halo 2 would be number 1, right? Because that's what actually got me into Xbox and got me into multiplayer gaming. I would probably say Gears of War 1 would be number 2. Forza Horizon 3 would probably be number 3, or like in that area, and like Ori would be right there. Like Ori is the creme de la creme. Anybody that says, "Hey, I need some recommendations for Xbox Game Pass," I always be like Blind Forest. People were asking me in the Discord, hey, I got Game Pass, what should I play? I'm like, you need to play Blind Forest, you need to play Will-O-Wisp. Like they are incredible games. And
do that.
And I figured, you know what? It's the 4-year anniversary of Will-O-Wisp. Let's get some gameplay, and that'd be really nice if you could talk about No West for the Wicked, and we could show off some gameplay next week.
Yeah.
That'd be super.
Do you know what? You know what else it's the anniversary of? Apparently, it's the anniversary of this podcast today as well.
No, there's no way we started it this 7 years
apparently,
ago.
Someone on the Discord said March 15th, when the first episode was uploaded.
Really?
I don't know. I haven't checked, but
well, check right now. Just
you think I know?
I mean, just go to the playlist and scroll all the way to the bottom. Check real quick.
It's too much hard work.
Come on. Well, somebody in chat, check for us. Scroll all the way back to Xbox 2 number 1 and tell us the date. Because in my memory banks, I have in my mind, I think we started in April, because I think that was when Digital Foundry
maybe then
revealed the Xbox One X specs. And I know we had started the podcast around that time. Maybe that was March, but I guess it's either March or April. But in my mind, I want to say it would be April timeframe, would be like 7 years. But I'm not really sure.
Fair enough. Well, anyway, Ori's a great game. Definitely go play it if you haven't already. And there's like so many great games that Xbox and Microsoft did fund. Stuff like Age of Empires, obviously. And you've got stuff like, I really like State of Decay. State of Decay is like a pillar Xbox franchise for me. But then, like, it's interesting you picked Gears 1, because I would have picked Gears 2.
Yeah, well, some people would have said like Gears 3. I don't know. There's something about Gears 1 in 2006. Well, sometimes the sequels end up being derivative of the original. Like where Gears of War was a trendsetter. It was something unique at the time, right? Oh, Zach Riley says, and Silver, they all say, a bunch of people are saying they scrolled back, and indeed, March 15th is episode 1. So it's happy anniversary. Wow, it's 7 years coming up on the same day. That's crazy. I didn't think it was right now. That's wow. Congratulations, Jez. What do you get me for our anniversary?
I get you a game code for something.
You get me a game code? 7 years of doing the Xbox 2 podcast. It's kind of crazy. I didn't think we'd make it this long, but
and we've got another million years to go, buddy, because Xbox ain't going nowhere, despite the rumors to the contrary.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that.
No. Oh dear.
We'll see about that. But no, I mean, Gears 1 to me was breath of fresh air. It was super unique. You haven't really played something like it before. Whereas like the sequels were like, like the tagline for Gears 2, Cliffy B would be like bigger, badder, better. And yeah, it was, but at the same time, it's kind of reminiscent of, say, like God of War 2018 to God of War Ragnarok, where it's like, yes, it's amazing, but at the same time, you've already seen it, so it kind of loses a little bit of that magic that you had when it was the first time. Like you play BioShock 1 and then you play like BioShock 2 or whatever, where it's like that first experience is the one that you hold in your head more than like the sequels that, have better game mechanics or better maps or maybe a better story. Because if you're saying which one had the better story, potentially, it's probably Gears 3. Because at least it had the emotional payoffs of certain characters, right?
Yeah.
So, for me, I don't know. I just remember Gears 1 was the one I played the most. We were playing multiplayer back then, popping heads with snipers, Nashers. I played the campaign like 4 times. But then, like, each successive game that came out, I would play less and less of it because... the more I played, the more I realized that I didn't really care for the multiplayer. I'd gotten my, I was full of like what it offered. I wasn't really into it anymore. So for me, it would be Gears 1. Because then essentially the entire industry copied Gears, did they not? Everything after that was a third-person cover shooter, right? Vogel is Craig. Sorry if I said your name wrong. Says the title of the first podcast is Rand and Jez talk Xbox Scorpio and PS4 games on PC. Damn, we're talking PS4 games on PC, huh? Back in 2017. Okay.
Oh my god, that's weird, man. That is weird.
Yes.
Oh man, a lot has happened in that time, but it really doesn't feel like we've been doing the podcast for that long.
No, I mean,
that's before the pandemic and everything.
I mean, bro, that's way before the pandemic.
Was Windows Phone still alive back then?
In 2017?
I think Windows Phone was in its death throes in 2017. Man, that's wild shit, man.
But anyways, we have a packed show, hopefully. I mean, there wasn't really much going on this week in the gaming world, but we'll talk about everything. So
we're gonna hang out.
We're gonna do some housekeeping really quickly. We're gonna hang out with you guys. Yeah. Jez, Manscaped is back this week, yes? With
that's right, Rand. It is indeed. Manscaped's back once again. Code XB2 in the checkout. And indeed, Rand, this episode is brought to you by Manscaped. This episode is brought to you by the Spring Cleaning Champions, Manscaped. Are you going to do some spring cleaning in your nether regions this season, Rand?
Are you?
I always do, man. This season, make sure to groom your carpets and the drapes with the leaders in below-the-waist grooming. Spring cleaning doesn't just apply to the nether regions either. Get the full grooming experience with Manscaped's signature Beard Hedger Pro Kit and Handyman Electric Face Shaver, which I use, by the way, and he's amazing. Beard Hedger Pro. He's probably the best face razor electric shaver I've ever had in my life. And you can't go back once you've used it. Whether you're looking to craft your signature look or clean up that neckline, there's always the right tools for the job. Clear out that winter bush with Manscaped's Lawnmower 5.0 and watch your confidence bloom like those springtime flowers. Embrace the season and join 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our special offer. Go to manscaped.com and use code XB2 for 20% off and free shipping. That's 20% off and free shipping with code XB2 at manscaped.com. There's nothing like a little spring cleaning in your pants.
Good one, Jez.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing Manscaped's been with us for so long and supporting us for so long, and thanks to everyone who's checked them out. You know, it really helps out the channel. And also, furthermore, they're actually pretty damn amazing products, you know? I mean, can't really fault them. I feel like we often get approached to do sponsorships with, you know, games and mobile stuff and things we aren't really passionate about or that we don't really care about and don't really recommend, but Manscaped's like one of those products where it's like you feel good about recommending it because the products are actually so good. So yeah, thanks to everyone for checking it out, and thanks to Manscaped for sticking with us.
Indeed. We also have the wonderful people at patreon.com/XB2. Make sure you get your questions in. The thread is up. I think Jez posted it yesterday. Sometimes I always tell Jez you need to post the question thread earlier in the week. Sometimes I think last week you posted it like 2 hours before the show. It's like, like post it earlier so people can think of some stuff, some cool questions.
Sorry.
But that's up now, so you can go in there and check out, put your question in. We'll get to it at the end of the show. Also, the interview we did with Nate to Hate is available for everybody to listen to on Jez's channel. And we are working on getting another guest for this month. We're probably going to do, if we can't get a guest next week, we'll do Xbox 2 Ultimate, and then we'll try to get a guest for the following week.
Yes.
You know, sometimes you DM people and they don't message you back. So what are you gonna do, right? Or sometimes you DM people and you're trying to work out the time, and this time doesn't work for them, right? And you know that's at least me. The thing with the show right now, like 2 p.m., like that's the perfect time for me and Jez, but it doesn't always necessarily work for everybody. So
no.
Yeah, but
everyone's busy.
Yeah, everyone's always busy. But we do got some shout-outs here. We got Just James 93, Jay Peltier, Thurgus, Book and Beard, Holy Dark Death, Steve Stompy, James Wiseau, Trickster for Trade, The Grandest of Bip, Battered Haddock, Army Dude 52C, Ryan Kipple, Foreign Object, Mythic Marty, Moronic Donkey 99, Randall Thor 19, Silas, Eric Gregory, Elijah Vasquez, James Moore, Fantasticals, Halo is the Goat, Katriox, Bright Trundra 1, I Like Turtles, Justin Duell, Frank Mariano, PB Broking, Asa T and Madison, Governor Grimm, DZ Huffin, Wagerman, Achievement, The Scarecrow 121, Darren Tropey, Prof. JJJ, Ghostface Killa, and Wolfgang KPZ. Thank you guys so much for your support. It means the world to us. And yeah, you too can sign up at patreon.com/XB2. Link is in the description. So, Jez, I know you said you can't really play anything, or you can't talk about anything you've really been playing because of, embargo reasons or whatever. And so I'll just mention what I've been playing this week. I played 2 games. Short one first. I played a game called Geometry Survivor. I saw this game on the store, right? I saw this game on the store, and I watched the trailer, and I was like, wow, this is like really reminiscent of Vampire, like of Geometry Wars, right? Which I really like. I like Geometry Wars quite a bit, which I believe is now an IP owned by Microsoft, is it not?
I have no clue.
I believe Activision owned that IP, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I believe. Oh man, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I believe, because I think Bazaar built it.
Oh yeah, they do. Yeah, Activision owns Geometry Wars.
So Activision owns Geometry Wars, right? So I saw that trailer and I'm like, you know what? I kind of want to. I want to play something Geometry Wars like. So I downloaded it, and you know what it is? This game, Geometry Survivors. It was like $7. It's basically Geometry Wars meets Vampire Survivors.
Huh.
It's an auto shooter, right? So all you really have to do is focus on dodging enemies. And the enemies, when you kill them, drop little pellets, which you pick up, and then you level up, and then you pick a new weapon to grab or to use, which then you can level those up. So it's essentially Geometry Wars meets Vampire Survivors. I really liked Vampire Survivors. I put a lot of time in that game. So I was like, oh, look, they made a Vampire Survivors Geometry Wars. And the whole goal is to survive like 20 minutes. Let me tell you, it gets pretty damn crazy towards the end of it. But yeah, if you're on the lookout for something like a little time waster between games, and you are a fan of Geometry Wars and Vampire Survivors, I recommend checking out Geometry Survivors. I think I played it for a couple hours just to go through it, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I was kind of in a Geometry Wars mood. I saw that trailer and I'm like, I want to play this. And then it was kind of like, oh, by the way, this is Vampire Survivors though. And I was like, oh, because the difficulty with Geometry Wars outside of it being crazy is you have to aim your attacks at the enemies. But in this one, it's just auto fires, just like Vampire Survivors. So some of the skill is taken out of it, but it is still just the crazy colors and shapes. You trying to just dodge for your life as the clock ticks down is still a lot of fun.
I actually played a game that was similar to Vampire Survivors recently called what was it called now? By the Deep Rock Galactic devs. It's basically
Deep Rock Galactic Survivors. Yeah, they just announced it sold 1 million copies, I believe.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's not something I can see myself playing long term, but it's pretty funny how like loads of games are just coming out with these sort of. And Vampire Survivors wasn't even the first, I believe. It was like it was originally some Android game, I think, originally, and it's sort of grown into sort of like, oh, everyone can do this, which is kind of cool, kind of fun, right? But yeah, that is one game I can talk about, I suppose. I've played recently. But yeah, the rest of it, I can't talk about it. Sorry, Rand.
Mm-hmm. Well, I also been playing a lot of Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden. I am 30 hours in. So like last week when I talked about it, I was like 3 hours, 4 hours in. I'm now 30 hours in, and I'm still not close to the end. So this game probably going to go on for... Well, I'm also trying to do everything. I gotta say, this game's good, bro. I really like it.
Yeah, I've heard good things about
It
Banishers.
seems to be
A lot
like
of good things.
a game that a lot of people overlooked for whatever reason. I know it came out last month.
Mm.
Focus Entertainment is the publisher. It was developed by Dontnod, this is very unusual type of game for them, considering the last one was Jusant. I guess you could say it's more reminiscent of Vampire, which is I think a game you played. I never played that one.
I really like Vampire. I mean, I like what they were going for with Vampire, but the execution just wasn't great. I was really honestly hoping that Vampire would become a franchise and the sequel would nail some of it, because I love the atmosphere and the aesthetic. It does seem like Banishers is the same team that made Vampire. It's the same. It looks like it's got the similar kind of art style in some ways and stuff. Do you think so? I don't know.
I mean, I don't really remember Vampire, to be honest with you. I know there's an achievement that references the game, as well as like a secret, like one of those things. I know there's references to Vampire in it, but I gotta say this game is really. I didn't know what to really expect from it, but it's really gotten better the more I've played. Like, I guess you could say maybe the aspect that needed a little bit work, especially when you start in the beginning, is the combat. It's kind of a little basic, right? You kind of have your light attack and your heavy attack, and then once you're, and this isn't a spoiler, once your girlfriend dies, you can switch between characters. You can switch between him, who's got his attack with his sword on his heavy and his light, and then she is like the spectral, and she can she has like special abilities, like she can leap forward at enemies, you can punch them, and each of the characters they're like, hey, this enemy is protected by spectral stuff, so he'll do less damage to them, where if that's when you want to switch to her, and she'll do more damage. So you're switching between the characters, and I was kind of like, okay, the combat's serviceable. It's not like the most amazing thing ever. But then you get a rifle, which kind of adds a whole new dynamic to the gameplay element, because now you can sort of take pot shots at enemies. The rifle is a one shot, then reload. And you start unlocking more of these perks. You unlock more of her abilities, which give you more of like skill tree, because it's like an action RPG. You can build your character how you want. And like some of these perks have it, like right now, like I'm like level 19 in the game, and I get into these fights, and can be exhilarating, especially when you're fighting enemies that are higher level and you're trying to just survive, because the enemies can do more damage, and you may be used to doing, okay, I'm gonna shoot my gun, but then the gun doesn't really work that well, so you need to like figure out better tactics, and you can do sort of combos that bleed into him and her. So the combat's gradually, as the more you played, has gotten better. But really it's about like the stories, because the whole point of the game is like there's this nightmare that has taken over New Eden in like 1695, and your goal is to, I'm not going to tell you what your goal is, but throughout like the course of the game you meet people that are haunted, and you do their stories, and their hauntings are always a moral quandary, right? So the game's all based around choice.
That was similar to Vampire. Vampire was like the moral ambiguity.
So you'll be like, oh, this person is being haunted, and then you got to basically discover what's going on. Why is this person dead? How did they die? Are they holding any secrets? And things will evolve, and you'll talk to them, and then you'll be like, hey, and it's always, you can either send the ghost or banish the ghost or blame the victim, which is usually the evil thing. But they present the options in such a way where sometimes you're like, man, this person is an evil piece of shit. I want to blame them. But blaming them is like the bad thing. So each one of the cases are, a reflection of someone's morality, essentially. Right? Where it's like, oh, you kind of sit there and you think, well, should I really banish this ghost? Like, he didn't really do anything wrong. Should I blame him? I don't know. They do a pretty good job of it, of the moral quandaries that you come across.
Some morally quandrous Ghostbusters, it sounds like.
Yeah, and it's lengthy, man. Like I said, I'm 30 hours in. I probably
Oh,
got
really?
another.
I was going to ask how long it is.
Yeah, but I'm doing everything. Like I'm doing all the
Yeah.
hauntings. I'm like doing all that stuff. So it's probably like maybe 20, 25 hours if you just kept to the main quest. But I like to do everything because I think it's worth seeing because there's some really good writing and spots, and some of the hauntings can be, it's like, oh man, that's really what happened. Okay, but yeah, the world's bigger than you would think. It's this weird, it's deceptive, like open world game. Like it's just huge open stuff, but there's a lot of verticality. I guess it would be more like zones in comparison to like something like God of War, where it's like a big area, but it's like cordoned off. You do a lot of squeezing in between rocks and like ducking under like caves and stuff to get you where you're doing. But
You've sold me on it. You have sold me on it.
It's fun.
I was gonna skip it, but I think you sold me on it now.
Yeah, check it out.
I mean, it's sticking my backlog with everything.
I know everything.
Persona 5.
When you say that, I don't know. Like, I don't know if you're actually going to play it or whatever, because I know how much you got going on, and I know what you're playing. So, but I'm really enjoying it. So I should probably be done this weekend. I'm like honestly, I think the other night I played it for like 8 hours straight. I don't really get like that if I'm not really enjoying myself. So
that's cool.
But as far as like next week, like you got Rise of the Ronin, you got Dragon's Dogma 2. I don't know. I'm not really that interested in either of them, personally. Not saying I won't play either of them. I'm just like, I'm not like counting down the seconds, right? Counting down the days like I was for certain games, like when Resident Evil 4 came out or when Jedi Survivor came out and stuff like that, where I'm like, this is my jam, right? Where I look at that and it's like, I didn't play Dragon's Dogma 1, and I don't know, I'm not the biggest fan of Team Ninja, even though I did enjoy Wulong. So I'm just kind of like, I'll take a wait and see approach. I'll be done with this game, so maybe at that point, maybe I'll be like, all right, well, I'll try out Dragon's Dogma 2. But the problem is, it's like when you're not, and this maybe is more of a discussion of like what's going on in the industry. When you're not sure if you're gonna like something, it's tough to want to justify dropping $70 on something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I will say about Dragon's Dogma 2, you absolutely do not have had to have played the first game.
Right.
You don't need to play Dragon's Dogma 1 at all. In fact, weirdly, you might get more out of it if you haven't played the first game.
Interesting.
If you don't know the ending of the first game.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to say it because it's spoilers. But you honestly might get more out of it if you haven't played the first game. Which is weird to say, I think. But I can't really say much more than that. Obviously I went to Capcom, played it at I went to Capcom, I played it at in London, I played the preview build, stuff like that. So, and I've played the original and seen the endings and stuff. So yeah. But yeah, I don't know. There's just so much stuff on the horizon, and I'm kind of like, the other game I actually have been playing recently that I can talk about is Cyberpunk 2077.
Oh yeah.
Because I did the preview for the DLC in Poland, but I never actually finished the DLC when it comes to playing it myself because I didn't have time. I had to do other things, blah 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 blah. So like while I was waiting for Dragon's Dogma 2 to come out, I was like, I'm gonna go back and actually see what's different in Cyberpunk 2077. And do it properly and start over and all that kind of stuff. And I got just totally sucked in. I think I put like 30 hours into Cyberpunk 2077 in like, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks or something, which is a lot for me. And absolutely loving it. It does. It's not like completely different to the way it used to be, but the new combat stuff they've added adds like a lot of variety. Like they've added melee finishers, for example, to the four main cybernetic enhancements, like the mantis blades and the mono wire and stuff. There's all these like almost Doom-like executions now, where an enemy gets to low health, you can slice them to pieces, which is just satisfying every damn time. And also, it's weird because like you can also unlock extra benefits with the talent trees, where it's like if you slice up an enemy, your next hack is like, you know, cheaper to pull off or something like that. So like the combat flow is a lot better. It's still, you know, there's still things I would like to have seen them add. Like I'd love to have seen stealth kills with the mono wire, or the, you know, because there's still only 2 stealth kill animations in the game, which I think is a missed opportunity for a game that is like mostly stealth if you play it like that, you know. But the game's just so amazing. I think Cyberpunk's a top 5 game for me of all time, definitely. I just absolutely love it. I loved it before, and now I love it even more, you know. Definitely a top 5 game for me. But yeah, that's pretty much. Is that everything you've been playing as well? That's pretty much everything,
yeah. I mean, 30 hours of that game in 1 week is
yeah,
I've been doing. Plus, like Geometry Survivors, which I played for a little bit. And now, you know, when I'm done with this podcast, I'm gonna go play Geometry Survivors. I haven't even read a book this week. That's how into Banishers I am. Is I haven't even picked up a book to read this week. So,
oh man, that's funny.
Yeah. So I guess I don't know. What do you want to talk about, Jez? I mean, there's a lot of stuff here we could talk about.
I'll be honest, Rand. I'm a bit out of the loop this week. I don't know if you saw my tweet.
But you're always out of the loop this week. Every single day.
I've been heads down. I haven't been on Twitter. I haven't been doing anything. I've been relying on my news team to get things covered, and they've done a great job. And I've been heads down reviewing a very large game that's taken up all my time. So I am a little bit out of the loop with the goings on, and just been sort of relying on headlines from Windows Central. So you are going to have to, you know, fill me in as you fill in the listeners who might be unaware of said topics that we're going to talk about this week. You've got I mean, I'm obviously clued in the top topic that you've got there, which is Hellblade 2. We could get that out of the way first if you want.
Yeah, no, it's just funny. I got some people on me for not playing Cyberpunk yet, and I said, "Didn't you say you're going to play in December?" And it's like, "I did," and then I ended up reading a book. And Barry says Rand's Cyberpunk went the way of Jez's Persona, which how could you? Here's the thing, but I never started Cyberpunk and said I was gonna finish it. You know, just whenever I
wanna ask you something though before you play Cyberpunk.
What?
How did you play Deus Ex Human Revolution? Did you play it stealth or did you play it guns blazing?
Stealth.
Because basically, when you play Cyberpunk, you've got a couple of gameplay styles to choose from. And I think, like, because I gave it 10 out of 10 in my review, which some people were upset about because I never experienced any of the bugs from the console version. But additionally, I think my play style had a big impact on how I felt about the game, because I did play it entirely stealth with hacking, which was the best way to play it back then, and I think it still is, you know, maybe. So like I think like before you play it, you should do a bit of research about what kind of character you want to make, because I think it does have a big impact on your perception of the game. The hacking stuff is so good in that game. I've gotten to the point where I can just hack cameras and then set people on fire by making their cybernetic enhancement overheat. I don't even have to do combat anymore. You know, my character has become so powerful, and I'm playing on hard difficulty. I probably should have put the difficulty up even more. So, yeah, the game's just phenomenal. But, you know, you can also be a sniper. You can go guns blazing. They've really improved the melee system. You can just be a dude who goes around punching things to death using huge robotic arms, and when you punch people, they explode into bloody chunks. You really can like just sort of play it any way you want, but do some research before you choose, man.
Yeah, we got Keeson Thompson, member for 27 months. He says 27 months, time flies. It sure does, man. Every single week, I'm just like, all right, well, it's Monday. I don't got to do a podcast till Friday, and then before I know it, boom, podcast is here. It's like, Jesus, time just completely flies. I remember time crawling when I was a kid in school or in high school or whatever, crawling to reach that Friday when you can hang out and not have to worry about anything. And nowadays, like, it moves so fast. You know, I guess, you know, I don't know what that is. Is that a phenomenon where like time just moves faster the older you get? I don't know.
Yeah, I was literally thinking about that the other day. I think it is. I think as you get older, time moves faster, I think.
Yeah. And your boy Roy says,
old.
"Congrats on 7 years, guys. You two put on a great show." He said that in the super chat. Thank you for all
Thanks so
the
much.
the awesome comments about 7 years doing the show. It means a lot. Because we even got one here from Cody. He says, "First time joining the call live. Been listening for years now. Rand and Jez, you both rock. Thanks for getting up and doing this every week. We appreciate you both so much. Love getting messages like that, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks so much.
Because it makes the show worth doing. Even on some days when you might not feel up to it or whatever, and it's like, man, there's always going to be people that they look forward to the show every single week.
Yeah, it's like even on days where I don't feel up to it, like once the chat starts flowing and everyone's getting in there and we're hanging out, like that feeling of like it just goes away. But I was thinking, Ryan, like we're talking about a lot of people talking about next gen for Xbox, right?
Yeah. What is it going to be? I saw some rumors today that the PS5 Pro 68 teraflops. And has a 50% performance boost on the regular PS5 or something. Or maybe it's like 67 teraflops at 16-bit, when in reality it's like 32 teraflops. I don't know. The rumors are going strong about the PS5 Pro.
Oh, man. Well, the reason I brought that up was because, like, say, for example, next gen for Xbox lands in, what year is it now? 2024. Say, for example, it lands in 2026, should we say?
A couple years.
Couple of years. I think, like, for our 10th anniversary, we should give away a next gen Xbox console. I think that'd be sick. Should we do that?
I mean, I don't see why not. Sure.
Yeah, let's do that.
I mean, what would you want to give away? The console or the handheld? Or will the handheld be the console? What if Microsoft?
Who knows what the hell it's gonna be,
what if
man?
Microsoft decided, you know what? We're just going to give them a handheld, no console. Console is the handheld because you can dock this sucker.
Who knows what's going to happen, man? Who knows?
Or, like, what if they decided, you know what? We're not really going to chase power anymore. So the console and the handheld are going to be the same power signature, same profile. So if you dev for the console, you're deving for the handheld. And they gave up the power narrative and let Sony go crazy building these expensive systems, and Xbox more aligned themselves with the lower end Switches. The lower end Switch 2 and the what then?
I think that's spooky, but I suppose we'll have to wait and see what happens with all that. I don't think they'll do that. I think they'll give everyone an upgrade path. That's my belief. I believe it my testicles. My manscaped testicles, code XB2.
Code XB2. So Hellblade 2 is in the news for a couple different reasons. One, I don't know if you saw it earlier today, they posted and confirmed that Hellblade 2's photo mode will be returning. And they actually said, let me get the tweet out so I can read it correctly. They said, when you type in like Ninja Theory on Twitter, why doesn't it just bring it up right away? I swear, X is just, ugh. They said, photo mode returns in Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. Here are some shots we took purely using photo mode in the game this week. And they look absolutely incredible. Especially this last one here where it's got a close-up of her eye. Oh, so, okay, we're getting close. We're about 2 months away. The game comes out May 21st, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So photo mode's confirmed. We're looking at some very detailed character models. Like, it's my most anticipated game of the year. It's my most anticipated Xbox Studios game ever since they announced it alongside the console back in December of 2019. Man, it's been a long time. It's been a journey to get to Hellblade 2. And so there's that. But also, there are some waves made this week because friend of the show, Risk It for the Biscuit, on his podcast put out that he has heard from multiple people that there is a PlayStation port of Hellblade 2 in development right now. And that kind of took the world by storm, at least the internet by storm. People are writing articles. And you kind of inserted yourself into the discussion, Jez.
Yeah.
As you are wont to do, you'll just come right in there and you'll, say what you need to say. So what have you heard about Hellblade 2 and PlayStation 5 and all that good stuff. Very similar to, the rumors the previous week. These things are never going to go away, and that's a byproduct of Microsoft pursuing a third-party strategy, or at least whether it's a full slate strategy or just a couple games here and there. Now every game's on the table. Every game is a potential candidate to go over to the competing platforms. Anybody and everybody can come out and say, guess what? I heard Avowed is coming to PlayStation 5. And there's ports, there's people are working on the port now. And you know what? Even if you're just lying about it, there's a good chance it could be true, because you don't know. There's a good chance a lot of those games end up going over, or maybe not a lot of them. But at the end of the day, it's a possibility, because now that the seal's broken, people are looking at it like as something that potentially could happen. But what have you been hearing, good sir? Let the people know.
Yeah, so the boring truth is... The boring truth is that right now, the only games that are being ported are the ones that they said are being ported.
Okay.
That is the boring truth. The boring truth is that they told the truth, right? But the boring truth, furthermore, is that they left the door open.
Yeah, the door's wide open. Yeah.
The door's wide open. So it's not like they said this will never happen or Hellblade will never happen. But right now, like whenever you hear these rumors like Starfield's in development for PlayStation or Hellblade's in development for PlayStation, as of right now, as of March 15th, 2024, those bits of information aren't true, right? And for what it's worth, I don't think Miss Brisket made it up.
Brisket? You said Brisket, your name. No. Risk it for the biscuit, bro. Get it right.
Brisket. Yeah. Well, man, I'm thinking about brisket because of a certain game I'm playing where you can cook food and it looks really delicious. But yeah, Risket, for what it's worth, I don't think Risket was lying. And I think Risket does know people. But at the same time, I think those people were either lying or mistaken. Or just like that's in the PC build with a DualSense controller plugged in, which gives you it gives you the PlayStation buttons when you do plug a DualSense controller in when it's running on PC. Something like that, like where it's like a case of it's just a mistake, right? Well, that's the problem when you sort of trying to glean information from a second-hand source, or they heard, and then maybe it's third-hand information, maybe it's fourth-hand information, and then like there's any number of reasons why it can be mistaken. But I've got sources who are like very willing to debunk certain things at the moment, and debunking is sort of where I'm falling on right now, because because leaks spoil surprises and everyone gets mad and stuff like that. So people don't like leaks anymore. We talked about this before.
Yeah, they don't like insiders. They don't like leaks. They don't like...
No, insider's bad. Insider's bad. Journalism bad. So we don't do that anymore. But like for example, when people thought Toys for Bob was going to be shut down because the office was being closed down, I was instantly able to debunk that, and it was just like, yeah, then it's not shutting down. They're going remote, and then for the discussions from going remote extended towards being spun off completely. So it was never in the discussion to shut down Toys for Bob. But Toys for Bob, like they were just having these. All Microsoft studios that were acquired were having discussions with Microsoft about how they see their future. Toys for Bob is a very like closely knit team, and they never really gelled with Activision. They never really wanted to be working on Call of Duty. They always wanted to be doing their own thing, and Microsoft gave them the opportunity to go and perhaps do their own thing again, but in partnership with them as an external studio. So I think that's a good thing. But again, I was able to debunk that pretty quickly, and it's similar scenario here with Starfield, with Hellblade. All these rumors about these games that have ports in the works right now. There's no port for Starfield in the works right now. There's no port for Hellblade in the works right now. But as we discussed on previous episodes, Rand, they kind of broke the seal on that, and now everyone and anyone can just sort of predict that Hellblade 2 will eventually come to PlayStation 5, and they'll probably be right. You know, there's a lot of reasons why Hellblade could come to PlayStation. Like the original is there. You know, there's an audience for Hellblade on PlayStation. Of course there is. And, you know, I'm sure Ninja Theory would like to see their game on PlayStation as well. You know, but at the same time, the boring truth is that Microsoft wants to move slowly. They want to make sure that this initiative isn't going to negatively impact monthly active users on console, which is really, really, I think, encouraging, right? At the end of the day, unless you're a console tribalist and it's just like, well, they shouldn't put the games there because Xbox is the best and screw PlayStation, right? For me, it was always about whether or not it was going to hurt Xbox, whether it would mean we'd get less games, whether it would mean people would leave the platform, and whether it would mean that that it would trigger a downward spiral, and then eventually all my games would be orphaned, and then I'd have thousands of games on Xbox that I couldn't access, all those saves and all that data and all that, you know, your friends list and all that kind of stuff. Like, the ecosystem would be damaged.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why Microsoft's moving slow, and that's why these 4 games right now. And but I suppose if there is no negative impact from these 4 games and only positive impact, like for example, the extra money, and we're going to talk about Sea of Thieves in a minute, but the extra money from Sea of Thieves blowing up on PlayStation, that's going to lead to, you know, more content being developed for the Xbox version, you know? So that can be called, if you're a Sea of Thieves fan on Xbox, that can be called a net positive, surely, right? I mean, yeah, you can't console war tribalism over it anymore, but Rare will have more money and they'll be able to make more content for aforementioned game, which is only a good thing. So I think like what they're trying to do with the limit of being 4 games is trying to effectively gauge potential negative impact. And if there's no negative impact, then, you know, I could see more games coming down the line. But as of right now, it is only those 4 games. And for what it's worth, Rand, I don't think there'll be any negative impact. I don't think they'll see monthly active users go down because people are digitally locked in. And I think like they might even see more Xbox players, because maybe people will be like, oh wow, if this is what Xbox is about, maybe I should get an Xbox Series S companion console, you know?
Yeah, I doubt that.
Because
I doubt that very much.
I wouldn't be surprised,
no,
actually,
I doubt
because
that. I think that's
no,
I think that's hopium from executives trying to do. That's like hopium from what PlayStation was. Yeah, because PlayStation sort of had a similar strategy of like,
you mean with PC?
Yeah, well, like, oh, we're gonna put our games on PC and we're gonna try to show this is what you're missing.
Dude, PC gamers don't want gamers don't want console.
Right,
but console gamers buy all 3.
But my point is, it's a very similar thought, like strategy of, we're going to show you something that is exclusive to our platform, and once you get a taste of this, you may want to get more of it. Right, so
I'm pushing back. No. I'm pushing
back on you. I'm pushing back on you.
I'm pushing back even harder on you.
I'm pushing back even harder.
I'm pushing you off a cliff, bro.
Okay.
I'm lifting you up on the show, pushing you off a cliff. Nah, seriously, like, maybe not like right now, but you have to remember, I don't think they're gonna do day and date on PlayStation, right?
What do you mean, like?
And I don't think they're gonna do day and date. Like, if they do a Sea of Thieves 2, I don't think that'll be day and date on PlayStation necessarily. At least not in the initial instance. And, you know, like, for example, if I'm a console gamer right now and I want to play Final Fantasy 7, I have to get a PlayStation.
Sure.
Right. Or the only thing keeping me away from that is the knowledge that it's coming to PC. Right. But I am someone who will play on PC. A lot of console gamers won't play on PC. You are literally one of them, and you are literally someone who has multiple consoles to access those exclusives. So you, Rand, thank you very much, proving my point. Case closed.
Yeah, no. I'm just look.
You are someone who buys multiple consoles for exclusives.
Well, because there are games I want to play on PlayStation, so I'm gonna get, and I'm in a position where
you don't want to play them on PC.
No, it's not about. Look,
they're all coming to PC. They're all coming to your 490, but you don't wait. You've got multiple consoles, and why is that, Rand? Because you don't like PC gaming. Thanks for proving my point for me. I win.
But
Jez wins.
No,
Woo,
no, you
victory!
don't win.
Yeah!
No, you don't win. Because we were talking about the angle that they were going to use, like how you could essentially sell the idea of doing these things, because it's like,
they're not going to market that. It's just going to happen.
But Sean Layden was literally just on a podcast with Jay Barry and Persona. Shout out to them. Where he talked about that, about how it was the initiative to be like, hey, we're going to put our games and we're going to put them on PlayStation, maybe get a little revenue back. But essentially what they are is they're going to be marketing for the sequels and be like, hey, did you enjoy God of War on your PC? Well, if so, guess what? We got God of War Ragnarok coming. Maybe you would want to get a PlayStation 5 to play it instead of waiting or whatever. It's very similar to hold on, let me finish. It's very similar to what you just talked about the idea of, okay, we're going to put Sea of Thieves and we're going to put Hi-Fi Rush and we're going to put these games on other platforms. And you mentioned like, oh, well, maybe there'll be people like, oh, this is what Xbox is about. I didn't really know. I'm going to go get a console to check it out. It's not exactly, the same, word for word, line for line, but it's a very similar line of thinking of the idea of like, here's some games that Xbox has. And if you enjoy these things, maybe you would then enjoy the other experiences we have on Xbox platform. The problem is, and just like it is on PC, is the people that are entrenched on PC are going to be like, once you give me that first game, why would I ever get PlayStation? Why would I ever go buy a console? Because I know I'm going to get the second game. I might have to wait 2 years, but then it's more than likely with the way the new CEO is talking about, the wait's going to be even less. It was like 4 years, now it's 2 years, and who knows, eventually it could be 1, and then eventually it's day and date, right? Where now you also have some of these PlayStation guys being like, okay, well, sure, I could play Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves and stuff. Oh, I see Indiana Jones, and I see Gear 6, and I see all these other games or whatever, but in your mind, you're just going to think, well, Microsoft is just going to put these on PlayStation a year or two later. And that's the problem with the strategy of trying to convince people that they should buy another console instead of just waiting for those games to appear on the console they already own. Right?
Well,
I'm in a different look. I'm like super hardcore, right? I have the money to be able to buy a console I barely use. My PS5 is sitting there. I haven't turned it on since last year. I'm not like everyday I'm not an everyday, like, you know what I mean? Like, people who don't have a reason to buy something because there's not something on there I want to play aren't going to buy it. Simply, it literally sits there and collects dust. And I was perfectly okay with spending that money on it because I knew over the course of time there was going to be games I was going to play on it, right? But if Sony suddenly decided, you know what, we're going to put all of our games on Xbox, but you're going to have to wait a year. So God of War Ragnarok would come to Xbox a year later. I would probably get rid of my PlayStation because I would be perfectly okay waiting a year for PlayStation's games come to Xbox because I would rather play them on the platform that I'm currently on to get my achievements and get my controllers and everything like that. So I would imagine there are plenty of people over on the PlayStation side to feel the same. Why would I get an Xbox? Why would I spend money to get a system that I'm barely going to use when I think deep down that those games are eventually going to make its way over at some point?
I only said maybe.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm pushing back, bro. I get why executives would present that as a strategy.
People buy multiple consoles, man. People do buy multiple consoles.
I know they do. But I'm just saying, like, I don't really.
And if they've got multiple consoles, maybe they wouldn't wait. You know?
Yeah. Maybe they would. I don't know. The Series S is cheap enough.
Well, I put it this way, right? They're going to be monitoring this shit, and I think that's good that they're monitoring it and not just going all out, because that shows that they do care about the health of the Xbox platform, right? I almost said they care about the health of the PlayStation platform then. But they do care about the health of the Xbox platform, and they're monitoring it, and it's with that in mind that they're sort of like, not being gung-ho about it. So we'll just see where it all goes. I mean, for me, it was never about console tribalism. It was always about how does this negatively impact my investment in the platform? You know, will people stop buying it? Will games start sipping the console even more than they do now? I'm so salty round about Monster Hunter Stories. You have no idea. I think I've literally talked on the show about Monster Hunter Stories being a perfect game for xCloud, and somehow it's not coming to the platform, and I don't get that. It's so strange to me. But yeah, I will see how it all goes, man. We'll see how it all goes. Maybe we're sitting there when we do at the 10th anniversary.
Yeah, the 10th
and
anniversary.
PlayStation, 10th anniversary, and PlayStation will have held over to Xbox by then, and we'll all be sitting there singing "Kumbaya" together, and the console will be completely over.
Yeah, no, I saw some people saying, "Oh, Jez wins because Rand admits that he got a console for exclusive," which is true.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
But if
PlayStation
was bringing their exclusives to Xbox, but I only had to wait a year or two, I wouldn't have gotten the PlayStation. I could easily wait a year to play those games.
I think one of the points about that really does sort of negatively impact that ideology is oh wow, I just got a 0.00% rare achievement. One of the things that really does put a dent in that whole idea of you know, maybe it can market the console is the fact that there's just too many games to play already.
Sure.
Like the fact that I really want to play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but there's so many other games I can play that it doesn't matter to me that I have to wait a few months, a year, whatever. I was actually on Sacred Symbols Plus this week with Colin Moriarty. It went really well. And, you know, that'll be up on Last Stand Media, I think, on their Patreon now and then on YouTube a little bit later. But one of the things we actually talked about was this concept of there's just so much to play right now that I barely feel like I've got any time. And that's when, like, some of these games like Banisher's coming through, which Banisher's, like, might be a really good game, but it's like, how can I fit this in around, like, all the other games I want to play? Like the Dragon's Dogmas.
Play one game at a time, like me, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I could, but, you know, and then, you know, you have to trying to think of things like, am I just more aware of all the games that are coming out now because of the fact that, you know, I actually work in covering this stuff. And whereas, like, when I was younger, I only became aware of games through word of mouth or a complete random and stuff like that. And it's hard to tell, you know. But I don't know, man. The industry's changing forever, I think.
Yeah.
In the next 10
years is going to look completely different. But hey, we got a topic where me and you disagree. Pretty not saying like we were very angry, but like I was angry,
man. I was fucking angry.
But normally, most of the time,
fucking angry.
Most of the time, we agree with each other on stuff usually. But this is something I don't agree with Jez on. Jez is a little bit more optimistic on this than me.
Well, I did say maybe. I mean, it might be overly. It might be overly optimistic. I swear to God, right? Some people like attack me for like having optimistic speculative takes, and then they're like, "Oh, just said this would happen." And it's like, I was just fucking speculating for the sake of discussion, for God's sake, you know.
Well, some people will be like about the Hellblade thing in particular, the Starfield thing. People will say, "But didn't Jez say Hi-Fi Rush wasn't happening back in December?" They'll point to your tweet where you said the games coming to PlayStation 5 was just fanboy copium. Basically insinuating that you don't know what you're talking about. How would you respond to those people by using that tweet?
Well,
is it one of those things where it's like, hey, new information, you know, I change my opinion based on new information I get, right, kind of thing? No?
Not really. Okay. I mean,
so
Colin asked me about that tweet, right? Where I basically said it was sometime in December, and I said, there's no games coming I said there's no games coming to PlayStation. It's just fanboy FUD, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't a case of there's new information. I've changed my opinion. That whole situation was a result of twofold issues. First of all, I was investigating Hellblade specifically because not only Hellblade but Starfield, because those are the two games that have been sort of offered to me as games that are going to PlayStation, right? So I investigated those and I debunked them pretty easily. And I was just like, oh man, this is just more FUD, you know. And it was Christmas and I was visiting family. I wasn't really working, I was off work. And I was just kind of like, you know, offered this sort of emotional take on it, which was like, this is just a load of bullshit. And it's like, it's the kind of thing that you probably, you know, say to someone in discussion. Like if we were talking about it and someone was saying to me, oh, I've got this rumor that this is happening. I just like, oh, that just sounds like bullshit, you know? So it was just it was just a dumb flippant tweet and not a really a journalistic one. So I suppose laziness, as boring as that is, laziness is the one issue there. But also, I suppose I was investigating the wrong games because, like, it wasn't long after that I sort of, you know, the stuff. I think it was Sea of Thieves that I confirmed first at my end because I think like Hi-Fi Rush was already swirling around then, and then it was just like, oh, okay, so this actually is happening. And I think what happened is that the rumors that I were hearing were again similar to what Riskit was hearing, where it was like someone maybe lower down the Microsoft chain had heard that this was happening, and they'd assumed Hellblade because maybe Hellblade 1 was on PlayStation and it just makes sense, right? And maybe they'd assumed Starfield because, you know, the game was enormously expensive and probably done all it can do on Xbox right now. And maybe like they look to give it a cyberpunk style redemption story arc when they drop the DLC, which I presume is going to have a ton of features that people are asking for. I mean, I would hope so. Because right, I think Starfield slipped to mostly negative reviews on Steam now.
Didn't they just release an update with like 400 fixes or whatever?
Yeah, but they're fixes. They're not really new features. And I think one of the issues with Starfield, and just off on a slight tangent, I kind of feel like, and I realized this, by the way, as I was playing Cyberpunk, right? Because I've put 30 hours into Cyberpunk 2077. And like every side quest I do is unique. Every location I go to is unique. Every building is unique. Every story situation is unique. Everything is unique. Even like those random dynamic missions that pop up, like you know, the Night City Police Department. Well, you haven't played it, I suppose, but the Night City Police Department sometimes pops up on the radio and they're like, "Oh, there's an assault in progress. Can you go and kill some gang members for us or whatever?" Even those are unique. Like the world of Cyberpunk is so dense, it's so amazingly well crafted that it kind of like when you compare it to Starfield, where it's like every sort of every sort of planetary outpost is copy and pasted. I kind of feel like I kind of get why the review scores on Steam gradually went down over time, because I think like I think there's a point in Starfield where you get diminishing returns. Like the more you play it, the less you get out of it, because the more you start running into copy and paste over and over again. The game's like almost like too diffuse and too big for its own good, maybe in some ways, but yeah, slight tangent. But anyway, Starfield was a game that I'd heard and I discovered it wasn't coming. But yeah, that was my fuck up. I shouldn't have been lazy. I should have investigated more. I shouldn't have been so flippant, and I should have just been like, because I get so much fanboy fake bullshit rumors all the time, and I just sort of got lazy, and I guess I slipped up. So like, I hold my hands up. That's my bad, you know. And it's funny, you can have like a 99.9% accuracy rating, and then remember the one thing that you got wrong or put out there or slipped up with. But it's bound to happen, you know, eventually, where you just sort of, you know, do something when you're tired. And I think I'd had something to drink as well, probably. I drank quite a lot over Christmas, but
yeah,
whatever. It's whatever, you know. It happened. And this is the reality the Xbox ecosystem now finds itself in. And, you know, after all the drama and the back and forth on it, I'm actually at a place where I'm like optimistic about the future of Xbox again now, because there is so much cool stuff they're doing on the technology side, and I really do like, I believe in this handheld thing. I want to see the handheld, I really want to see what that looks like. I want to see it come to fruition. I talk about it like it's confirmed and like it's real, um, but it's not confirmed. It's not, but maybe it is. I don't know. But I'm in a place that's pretty optimistic, and I think it's important when costs have exploded the way they have, inflation's been the way it is, and costs have risen faster than the console industry has grown. They kind of have to do these kind of moves, which are sweeping revenue plays, really. That's what this is at the end of the day. This revenue injection for Sea of Thieves, that'll be huge for Rare. It's like the #1 game on PlayStation pre-orders right now, or it was last week or whatever. And that's going to be huge for the game. And that's going to have benefits for both Xbox fans and PC fans. And it's just kind of like, you can't argue against it, really. Like, there's like, if you're Rare, or if you're a Sea of Thieves player, it's kind of like, isn't this only a good thing,
Well, yeah, I mean, see, for sure. It's like, well, I mean, I guess you could say it could be a bad thing. Like, there's pros and cons of both, right? Like, okay, so Sea of Thieves gives an injection of cash. It's on PlayStation. It's #1 of the pre-order store. What does that really mean? Don't really know, right? It probably just means in that time frame, whatever that snapshot was, it was the most pre-ordered game, because a lot of those other games in that store have been available to pre-order for a while. But then you don't really hear anybody talking about the pre-order placement of Hi-Fi Rush, because
how's it doing?
Well, nobody's taking screenshots of it because it's not #1. I don't know where it is on the PlayStation chart, but so Sea of Thieves, you get an injection of players right on the PlayStation side, and I would imagine Switch 2 when that comes out next year. So you get an injection of cash. Maybe it extends the length of the game. They can add more content, but now though, I guess you could say one of the cons is now they have like more platforms to support. And maybe they're not up to speed, because I did a podcast with Insipid Ghost, and his co-host was Captain Logan, and he's like really, really big into Sea of Thieves. And one of the things that he was complaining about was like server connectivity and stuff. Where like now, if you're supporting all these different platforms, you better hope that the servers can hold up, right? And maybe they don't. So that could be a negative, where it's like they have server problems, just like Star Wars Battlefront Collection launched with, right? I'm sure you saw all the people complaining about the online aspect of the Star Wars Battlefront Collection, how it wasn't. So I mean, like, that's like a negative. You could see that, but the cache, like, okay, I'm sure you saw the reports that Sea of Thieves was deep in discussions with PlayStation for a long time over this, and Sony was helping out and all that sort of stuff. I mean, so the plans for this were, the plans for it was kind of just, these things have been going on for a while, right? And you never know what's going on behind the scenes with these companies. I mean, Sony seems to be pretty happy they're getting it. I mean, hell, Jim Ryan just said in video, thanks to Hazardor, that he was really happy to sign the 10-year Activision agreement. Or the 10-year Call of Duty agreement. But it's like, that's not what you were saying. Like, months and months ago, you were fighting this thing tooth and nail. Now it's like, we're thrilled to sign it to get PlayStation, Call of Duty 10 years or whatever. It's like scratching your head on this stuff. So, yeah. I mean, I know Rare's probably really excited. They're going to have an influx of people out there. And I don't really think people, the issue isn't so much Sea of Thieves. I think the issue is probably more Hi-Fi Rush and Pentiment, because I think people understand, like, live service games, they probably belong everywhere. And we've even seen, like, Sean Layden talk about that on certain posts and whatever. So it's like, okay, I get that. And I think the problem was it was Hi-Fi Rush, and people don't understand this, like, single-player game going to other places, which probably is not going to sell particularly well, especially in comparison to Sea of Thieves, which is probably going to rake in money. But business is business, and you're going to do what's ever best for your business to make as much money as you possibly can. And I think you need to tread that line of like, does this hurt the Xbox console business? Because if it does, we still want our Fortnite microtransaction money. We still want to sell full price games. We still want to take a cut of every single microtransaction that is on our store. But if less people, spend the money, less people buy the hardware, then they're spending less money there. And then they're probably only then going to spend the money elsewhere, right? So it is a fine line to walk, as you say. And the
thing is,
it doesn't really help when, there's rumors pop up everywhere. And this is the thing. I would just ignore every single rumor about any single Xbox game because they all could be true. And the person giving you that rumor may not really even know. I could come on this podcast and be like, okay, if you look at the upcoming things, Hellblade 2 is going to be on PlayStation, Avowed's going to be on PlayStation, Towerborn's going to be on PlayStation, and I could name off a whole bunch of stuff and say these games will all be on PlayStation, and most likely I could be right. And you know what? I could say all that stuff and not actually know and still be right. Because if you're reading the tea leaves, there's a good chance it could happen, right? Like, oh, the new Gears collection? Maybe that launches on PlayStation, right? And I could say that, well, not like anybody would actually pick it up because, this is Jez's podcast, not Rand's, right? But like I could say that and not have any sources and probably still be right because there's always that chance of it happening, right? This is where like if you're going to say that stuff, it's more of like I want time frames. I want windows. I want things that that are harder to come by rather than like X game is being worked on. Because anybody and their mother could say that and be proven right. Like, okay, Hellblade's coming to PlayStation. All right, it could. Is it coming 6 months later? Is it coming a year later? Is it coming to 2 years later? Give me a time frame estimate. Give me a window of release. Give me something that is truly like behind the scenes information instead of something that potentially really might happen. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to sort of see where this might go eventually down the road. You don't need to be a quote unquote insider and, hear from sources to say this stuff. And somebody could out there and say these things and be right and be like, oh, I knew, but did they really know? I don't know. That's the thing. And the media is going to love to report on it, right? Because it gets clicks. You get the Xbox guys clicking on it. You get the PlayStation guys clicking on it because they both want to read it. And
a bunch of people did articles on my tweet. So I didn't do an article on that rumor. I just tweeted out, and people say, oh, you're farming engagement on Twitter. Yeah, for what? Like 50 cents? Like you make nothing on Twitter. So that whole, let's put that to bed right now. But I didn't put an article out on that because it's just like, I know that most people aren't even aware of that these rumors are going on, and they're very specific to our community. And I was basically reacting to DMs I was getting about it, like, "Oh, Hellblade's coming, it's all over. Sky's falling, whatever." Why would Microsoft like Hellblade is a selling point for Xbox this year? Why would they jeopardize that right now by starting a PlayStation 5 port, which potentially would leak?
Mm-hmm.
Because now the cat's out of the bag and they're working with PlayStation, and Sea of Thieves is out there talking about how they're working with PlayStation. That would leak, so, with evidence, not just hearsay, rather. So, it's kind of, they're going slowly. They want to analyze how this is all going to go. But the game has changed, Rand. The game has changed. And you want to know what the truth is, Rand?
What's the truth?
You want to know what the truth is?
What's the truth?
PlayStation didn't win the console war, bro.
Okay.
Xbox didn't win the console war, bro.
Okay.
Nintendo didn't win the console war, bro.
Okay.
Do you want to know who won the console war?
Who won?
Valve.
Valve won the console war.
Valve has won the console war. Do you want to know why?
How did Valve win the console war? They don't make consoles, bro.
They do, bro. It's called the Steam Deck, bro. And the Steam Deck is basically a console. I don't care if you can boot to Linux on it, whatever. No one's gonna do that. It's a pain in the ass. That is a console for all intents and purposes. 99.9% of people are never going to exit out of the Steam environment. You know, I know it's not closed, but that doesn't make it a PC in the true sense. I mean, I can run Windows on it, I can use Word on it, but no one's going to do that because it's a pain. It's an absolute horrible experience that no one's going to bother doing. So it is essentially, for the mass market consumer, it is essentially a console, right? And they have their own exclusives. They have PlayStation's exclusives. And they have Microsoft's exclusives. They have PlayStation's exclusives a little bit after the fact. And they have Microsoft's exclusive day and date. So they've built a console, essentially, that can do everything. It's cheaper. It's cheaper at the lowest end than the highest end Xbox and PlayStation. And also, it's portable. So it's kind of like, you know, yeah, there is a power differential to account for, no doubt about it. But that won't always be the case as things improve with mobile chips over time and all that kind of stuff. The Steam Deck has built a platform that's kind of sidestepped the whole console war and managed to get both platforms exclusives without really trying to compete. So, like, if I'm Sony and Microsoft right now, I'm looking at this whole console war thing while the Steam Deck grows and grows in popularity, and you know they're building a Steam Deck 2 that's going to be way more powerful. It's like, man, we're kind of behind here. We're kind of behind in the times here. I know the Steam Deck, we don't know exact Steam Deck sales, and yeah, it's not really approached. It's not really approached PlayStation or Xbox sell through right now, but you know, if you look at the long tail of Nintendo Switch and the way people kind of want that kind of gameplay experience, and the fact that it could also standardize PC a little bit, that Steam's already doing. Like, if you're building a PC game, you're standardizing it for Steam. You're not really standardizing it for anything else. You're definitely not standardizing it for the Epic Games Store or the Microsoft Store or anything like that. So yeah, it's a brave new world, man, and it's got Valve's name on it. Speaking of Valve, did you see this story about what Valve said when Epic Games had sent them an angry email over something to do with Fortnite?
No, what was that? What was that about?
I can't remember exactly what it was about, off the top of my head, but the Epic Games CEO was angrily emailing Valve over something to do with Fortnite, and Steam's chief communications officer, I think, replied, "You mad, bro?"
Did he really?
Yeah, although it wasn't to Tim Sweeney, it was like internally, but because they're doing these court cases, these emails have come out now. I just think that's kind of funny. But that's the position Valve's in. You know, they're all growth, all going uphill, and whereas Microsoft and Sony are fighting a console war over a paradigm that's static, whereas handhelds are growing. So what do you do if you're Microsoft and Sony? You build a handheld, which is why I believe they are building handhelds. And there's rumors that PlayStation are building handhelds. Is Tom Henderson in the chat? Why hasn't he leaked the PlayStation handheld yet?
I don't know. Why doesn't he leak?
Get on that, Tom. You're slacking off, bro.
Why doesn't he leak the specs of the PS5 Pro? Because people are saying 67 teraflops.
Or maybe it's got 1,000 teraflops, bro.
Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be man, I wonder how expensive that thing's gonna be. Whenever the
$5,000.
I don't know. We do got some super chats I want to get to, Jez. We have Nerds and Other Legends says, it feels like there are a lot of Xbox fall games, maybe too many. Do you think some will slip to 2025? I feel like the first half of the year was quiet. The first half of the year was pretty damn quiet indeed. And it does seem like the back half of the year is pretty much stacked. Matt Booty mentioned 10 games, which also includes expansions. And we know Aura's one of them. We know that Avowed's one of them. And what was the other game? At least for sure. Indiana Jones, so that's 3. There's going to be a new Call of Duty, so that's 4. I think the Diablo expansion's end of the year, and they counted that, so that'd be 5. Forza Horizon's due for a new game. Is that this year? I would probably say not. Gears Collection rumors. Could that be this year? Maybe. Towerborn would seem to be like the first half of the year, but then seems like it's going to be the second half of the year. So there's a whole bunch of games. And yeah, it's like one thing where it's like, you really need to spread this out. But game development is the way it is. It's like sometimes games just need more time and they get pushed. So
people talk about how what Nintendo is they hold games. They back up they back out. Yeah, they hold games. They stagger them out for maximum impact, which is, very, very different to what the other publishers do. But maybe Microsoft will eventually get to a production lineup where they can do that, or at least like stagger out big patches and expansions for service games. I don't know, man. It's interesting.
Yeah. I'm sure
Microsoft
might be
hasn't done that historically.
Yeah, I'm sure maybe something might get delayed, but we don't know. Andre says Tom Warren was once sloth for saying the Sebel controller will release in late May. Considering Hellblade 2's release date, could it be the first title to make use of Sebel's new immersion feature, which was the haptics? This was leaked in Xbox's plans last year from 2022, but Microsoft did come out and say, hey, well, these aren't the real plans. I don't know if that controller, they could hold off and release the controller with next generation in a couple years or whenever next gen is. They could standalone release it. I would say probably not. I can't really see Hellblade 2 being the first one to use it because the controller would have to be announced and available for people to buy to have while they play Hellblade 2. And it's March and they haven't announced it yet. So I'm going to say it won't be Hellblade 2 that,
Remind me when Hellblade comes out.
May 21st.
May 21st.
Yeah.
Oh, crap.
What?
Oh, never mind. It's March, not May.
Yeah.
I thought that was soon. I was like, oh my God, that's next week.
No, not yet. RDX on a Fet says, does Windows on Steam Deck work at all? I have the chance to trade my second Series X for a 512 gigabyte Steam Deck, but I will not use Linux.
Man, it does, but I don't recommend it. Like, I've got an article on Windows Central where I'm gonna have to change it actually, because I did write an article that was kind of like, yeah, this works and it's pretty good, but like, it was only good for a little while before all the third-party drivers broke on me. So the issue with it is you have to use like third-party drivers from independent developers who just want to make it work. Well, not drivers, but software, like things for like changing the TDP and stuff like that, right? Because one aspect of the Steam Deck or the whole handheld paradigm is that you change the wattage on the CPU to accommodate what you're doing. So if you are going mobile and you want maximum battery life, you can play like a 2D game like Hollow Knight, for example, and then lower the wattage on the CPU to give you more battery life, right? Stuff like that. So, but to run that on Windows with the Steam Deck, you have to use like third-party tools, and they break. My Steam Deck with Windows, my Windows deck was working great for a little while, and then it just broke, and then the software wouldn't work, and I was like, this is an absolute uphill climb nightmare. And then the Asus ROG Ally came out, and that just sort of like, well, there's just no point doing this anymore because the Asus ROG Ally is designed for Windows. So I would absolutely not recommend it, but at the same time, Proton with Linux for Steam works really, really well. The only reason you would ever want to put Windows on the Steam Deck is to get Xbox and PC Game Pass. That's the only reason you'd ever want to do it. Because Proton and Linux and Steam Deck works just fine the way it is, Yeah. That's my take on all that shit.
We got Jax82 saying, Rand, are you willing to wait 5 years for Square Enix to bring all their games to Xbox? You know how Square is. You would willing to wait that long for Final Fantasy VII Remake? Well, I mean, it's 2024, and I haven't finished Final Fantasy VII Remake yet. So I guess the answer to that question is yes. I mean, I could go and play Final Fantasy VII Remake whenever I want. I mean, I could play it right now and go play Rebirth. Willing to wait is not... I'm not somebody that needs... I do experience FOMO, but a lot of times I don't really fall victim to it. If you know what I mean. I know some people will be like, I need to play this game because I want to be able to talk about this game on my podcast or on Twitter with some sort of authority. That's never really crossed my mind. To buy something simply I can engage in the community aspect of like speaking about the game. So, but I mean, even if you look at it like Square Enix right now, the game's changing with Square. So, and if it's something I immediately want to play, like I played Final Fantasy 16 day one. Could I have waited and played it on Xbox in a couple years? Yeah, I could have. But I didn't know when it was going to come, and it was a game I wanted to play, so I played it. If I knew without a shadow of a doubt that those games were coming to Xbox, yeah, I'd wait. Just like I would wait if Sony said they were bringing their games over. I don't necessarily need to play it day one. I could easily wait. I'd rather get achievements and play it with the perfect controller rather than having to charge my DualSense every 2 hours because it loses a charge so fast. It's like, how am I going to replace? Not going to buy a new.
Isn't the new DualSense got better battery though?
Well, I think whatever new DualSense they're launching with the, with the PS5 Pro or whatever is supposed to be longer. But yeah, my DualSense 3 hours later, it needs to be like, it's almost like a wired controller at this point because it just cannot hold a charge.
Wow.
Jones says, congrats to 7 years, guys. Rand, I always liked you more than Jez, but don't tell Jez. Jez, I always liked you more than Rand, but don't tell Rand.
Ah, interesting. The switcheroony.
Yeah. The good old switcheroony. Should we have a poll about who you prefer, Rand or Jez, on this 7th anniversary?
It's gonna be you, bro.
No, it'll be you. It'll be you.
Hell no. Well, it shouldn't be because
no.
Yeah, I upset a lot of people.
Yeah, sometimes you do.
I block everyone.
You do block a lot of people. I'm surprised you haven't blocked me yet. So yeah, what did we talk about? We talked about Hellblade 2, Sea of Thieves, all that stuff. Pal World's in the news, Jez, because they're open to acquisitions. I don't know if you saw that thing from Bloomberg. They're open to acquisitions. They're in negotiations to bring the game to other platforms. The game was made for $6.5 million by 55 people, and Microsoft is currently not engaged with acquisition talks with them.
RIP.
So, but that doesn't mean they haven't talked, or they won't talk in the future. But
I kind of feel like Microsoft's traumatized from acquisitions. They're probably like their lawyers are in therapy, and it's just like, no, when you mention acquisitions to them. Nah, I don't know. I really do think Pal World and the devs behind that game will be an amazing get for Microsoft, but clearly there's FTC things to consider right now. I don't know. It's kind of annoying actually because there's probably other companies that Microsoft would want to acquire at the minute, like artificial intelligence companies. Like I saw Apple acquired an AI company recently, and Microsoft has its big deal with OpenAI, but they've still kind of committed their future to another company. And I don't know how robust that deal is. Their deal with OpenAI is so strange. So how is that going to pan out? I'm sure they'd rather be making their own AI stuff, but clearly that's not going to happen now. But I don't know, man. I suppose it's another one of them wait and sees, isn't it?
Yeah, sure is. Has it really fallen off at all? Do you know? The numbers have fallen off? Yeah. pretty much. I mean,
Power World.
Only...
Yeah, I mean, it happens. It's a live service game. There's only so much content in the game, and for most people, they've experienced everything they want to experience of it and moved on. I'm amongst those people. I didn't do everything that you possibly could do in the game, but I just I got to a point where I was like, okay, well, I'm kind of happy with what I've seen of Power World now. I'm happy to move on at this point, but yeah.
Okay, well, geez. So embracing. Saber officially got away with some of their studios underneath them, including like 4A and Xeno. I guess that's up to the company paying the money to get, but it does sound like 4A and Zen are going to be included in that. So Saber gets
Metro,
away.
I hope.
Yeah. And I did see your tweet about how, you know what, Microsoft, please save Crystal Dynamics and Eidos. Don't, you can't let this keep on going.
I only said Crystal Dynamics, really. I'm not even sure if Eidos is still the same company that it used to be.
Really?
But, yeah, I mean, would you stick around after everything? I don't know. I mean, but it's a mess, man.
It is a mess, isn't it?
Yeah. Embrace is just a huge ass mess.
Yeah, and we still don't know where Gearbox is going and whatever studios are underneath Gearbox. I believe the people that made Remnant 2, Gunfire Games, I think, are under Gearbox. So they would look like a tasty acquisition for somebody. I don't know, because Saber sold off to like a private equity firm or something. And the Knights of the Republic stuff is with them, but I was listening to Jeff Grubb, and he sort of said like Sony really wants nothing more to do with that game, and who knows if it ever really comes out. So, yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen with all the other studios that Embracer has, but it was definitely a big fucking clusterfuck on that end. Oh, our deal that we made vocally didn't pan through. Now I gotta lay off all these studios and close them all. Man. It's like, what? Who does business like that?
Embracer,
apparently. They're screwing up everything. But, when it comes to other stuff, one of the things that I saw this week that was cool, and I liked seeing this, is new studios. Came up out of nowhere, Jez. 2 new studios, to be exact. One was Stig Studio. He's got a new studio called Giant Skull. And he's the director of the Star Wars Jedi Survivor and series. He started a brand new studio that's going to be a AAA focused studio, and they're building like a single player experience.
Independent?
Yeah. So former God of War 3 and Jedi Survivor director Stig Amason has revealed his new studio, Giant Skull. The team is held by veterans from Respawn, Epic Games, and more, and is working on a AAA story-driven action-adventure game. I'm just kind of surprised there's a lot of money in, like, because it's expensive building new studios. I mean, you think about it, like, you have, Stig, great director, made a lot of great games, and you get all these people from all these different studios. There's a lot of layoffs going on in the industry, so it's great to see a new studio pop up. But then you talk about like how long a new AAA game's taken, and it's like, whoo, man, it's 2024. Assuming you even get started this year, you're probably looking at like, what, 2030? Right? Or unless you're making like a smaller bite-sized AAA game or whatever. But it's always cool when big, like, because I know people always go crazy when someone leaves their favorite studios, but normally when those people leave those studios, they go form their own studios, right? And usually with these studios, you'll end up getting like more originality or just new ideas, right? Some people will say like, the industry, the AAA industry is kind of plagued with the lack of creativity and risk-taking and stuff like that, which is true to a certain degree. But then to see like, okay, you have all these people that have done great work in their past forming together and making this new studio, it does mean like, oh man, I'm kind of curious about what they're going to make. I don't know when we're going to see it, but it could be something special and brand new. But they weren't the only new studio. We have Empty Vessel was also revealed this week. They even have like a trailer for their studio up. They're helmed by developers from id Software, Naughty Dog, Gearbox, and more. And the team is focused on creating, quote, immersive shooter experiences, and you're going to like this part, Jez, and is working with music composer Mick Gordon of Doom and Wolfenstein fame.
Excellent.
So,
I have to admit, though, Rand,
what?
I'm a little bit cynical about all these studio announcements.
Yeah, you are?
And stuff.
Okay.
I do get a lot of these, you know, and like press releases and stuff, and I'm just kind of like, we keep hearing about these studios, but then nothing comes of it, you know, and the projects don't pan out, and they don't get shut down, and the games get shut down, and then the studios end up getting shut down, and venture capital back firms don't get their money back, or the publishers they're working with, you know, and I'm just kind of, at this point, I'm kind of like, I just want to see the games, and I'm kind of, I know it might sound harsh or dismissive, but it's also like, I feel like this keeps happening where studios are being created and they say we're going to be a AAA indie and it's going to be great, and then it just doesn't pan out for whatever reason. So I just kind of want to see the games at this point. I don't think there are many studios that do AAA indie, you know, that have actually been super successful with it. I suppose like Larian comes to mind, devs of Baldur's Gate and Divinity Original Sin. I mean, can you consider CD Projekt Red as an independent these days? I mean, they're a publicly traded company, so not really, I suppose. And they do have multiple studios now. They don't really publish anything, but they also have their own store and stuff like that. I suppose CD Projekt Red could kind of be considered in that vein, I guess, because they don't really publish other people's games. But yeah, that's my point. There's not many. There really aren't many, you know, that are really doing AAA. So if it works out, great. I'm really excited to see what happens. But until then, I'm just kind of gonna put it at the back of my mind and not get overhyped for anything.
We're not gonna get an announcement of whatever game they're working on for quite some time, right? Because games take a long time to make. But there's always doom and gloom with the industry, with cancellations and stuff. But always in the ashes of these things rise, you know, the phoenix rises, and you get new studios formed out of it. But yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, oh, I'm not going to worry about this because it's so far away, and who knows what everyone's going to be like. There was a game announcement this week, Jez, that I don't know if you saw, but I did. And even though it doesn't show any gameplay, it's very much a cinematic trailer. It did get me really excited. Did you see the trailer, the announcement for Nobody Wants to Die?
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
What is that?
So it is a game coming to PC, Xbox Series X, and PlayStation 5 this year. It takes place in New York 2329. So way into the future. It's like it's like a cyberpunk Blade Runner-esque game where it seems like you're going to be a detective doing some detective work. I'm going to send you the trailer. You can watch it right now just to kind of get a glimpse at it. I'm going to send it to you on Twitter because that's what I have open right now. So, here you go. I don't know. I saw this thing. And has anybody in chat seen the trailer for Nobody Wants to Die? I didn't even know this game existed. And then I saw this trailer and I'm like, oh yeah, cyberpunk, Blade Runner, kind of a Deus Ex vibe going on here. Like, I don't know, it really caught my attention. But it's hard to really truly be like, all right, I'm super hyped because I don't know what else these guys have made, and really no gameplay in this thing. It's just an announcement trailer, but just from what they're talking about and what it looks like, it's like, okay, well, that looks super cool. I don't know if anybody else saw that. So, what's
the name of the studio?
I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know. I don't even know.
Oh, no.
I sent you
did you put the link?
I sent it to you on Twitter.
Where?
Yeah, I DM'd it to you.
That's cool, bro. My DMs are such a mess.
Yeah, I bet it
DMs
is.
are a nightmare, bro.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to die.
Nobody wants to die, indeed.
Oh, it's like a teaser trailer. Oh no, it's not. It's got gameplay.
Well, I wouldn't really call it gameplay.
Oh,
It's more
in-engine teaser.
yeah.
Oh, that does look. Actually, I think I've seen this.
Have you
I
seen
actually
it?
think I have seen this. Yeah, I think I have.
Yeah, Infinite Umbra. Shout out to our buddy Infinite Umbra. He says it's a noir detective action game, which like right up my alley. But it's
that was some of that stuff was the like the Arkham games, the Batman
Mhm.
Arkham games. I maintain that the first one is still my favorite one of those games, right? And I know that's weird because everyone loves the second one and the third one, but I really preferred the first one. It's like, to me, that felt most like being Batman, kind of.
okay.
There was a lot more detective stuff. The Metroidvania kind of layout of the map I felt was more interesting than the infinite Riddler trophies and stuff. But that looks really cool if it's like this sort of action detective game. Man, do you remember um uh what's it called now? I completely lost my train of thought, man.
Yeah,
I
it
hate
seems
when
like
that
it did.
happens, man.
Mm-hmm. I
Oh
think
yeah, LA Noir. LA Noir. That's
LA
where I was
Noir.
going with
Okay.
that. LA Noir. Why did we never get a sequel to LA Noir? That will never stop being annoying to me.
Why didn't we get a sequel to LA Noir? Maybe it didn't sell well?
Yeah, maybe. It was so good though.
Or maybe there was something up with the devs because it was published by Rockstar, but I don't think it was devved by
Team
Rockstar.
Bondi.
Yeah, and I don't know what they've
Team
done
Bondi,
since
yeah.
then.
They've shut down.
Okay, well there you go.
Huh.
Maybe that's why there's
they've shut down.
no LA Noir 2.
Yeah. It should have been though.
Detective games are kind of really hard to do. Like I know you do a lot of detective work in Banishers because you need to find out certain things, but normally it's just like the trail marker leads you to the area you need to find, and there's an icon over something you need to look at, and then you read it, and then you get the information. It's kind of very simplistic in that way. But I mean, I don't know what else you're really gonna do in that type of game. It's just, I mean, I suppose you could turn off all the prompts and stuff, so you're actually looking like you're like looking for stuff to click on and reading it or whatever. But it's like you don't even have to read the notes that you get because like you eventually get the breakdown when they talk to the person, and you wouldn't want to turn it off sometimes because then you have to go to a completely different area to find the next thing you need, and you would be completely lost. But
yeah.
Speaking of a studio that shut down, Deviation Games, Jez.
Deviation Games.
And
that was one of Sony's devs, right?
Well, no. So they weren't owned by PlayStation, but they did have a partnership with PlayStation.
Yeah.
And it sounded like they canceled Deviation's game last year because there was a whole bunch of layoffs. It was a studio that was filled with ex-Treyarch people. The founder had left like last year. It seemed like they're going through a whole bunch of problems. And then the information kind of got out that it was shut down. And, nobody really wants to talk about it. But, even though PlayStation has acquired 12 studios this, since like maybe 2019, I forget exactly when they started acquiring studios. They acquired like 12. They've also shut down some, right? They shut down.
Are you telling me that people aren't discussing it because of the Xbox tax?
I don't know if it's the Xbox tax, but and granted, they weren't a first-party PlayStation studio, but I remember when they were on stage with Jeff Keighley announcing the partnership, and they said like this partnership would continue to kind of like let them create games for years and years, and that ended up only being 3 years, and you never even got to see their game. I don't know. I sort of feel like that this would be bigger news if
Xbox and close the studio,
or like maybe,
or cause the studios to close.
Because this would be like we canceled your game and now you're shut down because of it, right? I mean, I wonder if Bungie played their game and was like like I don't know. It's sad to see stuff like this happen. But yeah, you don't really...
especially when it's, Treyarch pedigree.
Yeah.
You know, Treyarch's like done a lot of good stuff, and they pioneered the zombies mode, which I remember at the time thinking, man, this is weird. This doesn't make sense. Like, why is this in Call of Duty? Literally remember thinking that when it came out. That was obviously way before I was in the industry. But then I played it and I was like, oh, actually, this is pretty cool. I kind of dig this, you know? So.
I suppose it's maybe because we didn't get to see what the game was. I guess with Scalebound, because Scalebound would be a similar scenario, right? Not a first party studio. It was a studio that was kind of working with Xbox, but we had seen Scalebound twice. So we knew what the game was, and it was a different sort of game that Xbox was making different than what they normally would put out. And then
they'd already started doing interviews for Scalebound too. I interviewed Hideki Kamiya.
Yeah, they were doing interviews. We saw it at 2 E3s. I was at an E3 where it was supposed to be playable. I remember it's like we got this card where you could, if you filled out all the stuff, that you could like win something. And one of it was like you had to go to the people at the booths to get it checkmarked. And one of the things was for Scalebound, but they pulled the demo. It wasn't there, but it was supposed to be there. But I guess because we didn't get to see their game, and we only got to saw the announcement of it, it's not as big of a thing. Unlike the Spider-Man cancel game, which, I don't know, did you see any bit of that?
I did, yeah. I saw a lot of discussion about it.
Yeah, and we know what? That's the thing. Like, without the Insomniac leak, one, we wouldn't even know that they were working on a Spider-Man multiplayer game. And we certainly wouldn't have seen the trailer. There's like 2 trailers, and people saw this, and they were like, how could you cancel this? People were like, no, Sony, go back and bring this game back into production. And people just didn't understand why this game ended up being canceled. Obviously, they're not talking about it, Insomniac or PlayStation, on why they would cancel a Spider-Man multiplayer game. But judging from those trailers, it looked pretty cool. But there could be plenty of reasons why the game couldn't have worked. Maybe they couldn't figure out the monetization angle, right? Like, are we going to charge people for suits that we give away for free in the single player? Is it going to be tied to a game? Is it going to be a standalone product? It seemed like it was going to be standalone. Maybe the gameplay loop just wasn't very fun. Maybe the idea of seeing like 4 Spider-Man swinging around in a trailer is compelling, but the idea of 4 Spider-Man just beating up a bunch of thugs isn't a lot of fun. Maybe they couldn't nail the gameplay aspect. Maybe the game was nowhere even close, because we see the trailer and we think, oh man, that looks like a finished product, but it could just be a well-cut trailer using assets they already have, not like a full-fledged game that they just canceled. But normally we don't hear about these things, right?
It's what people don't realize. Like, just because something looks good in a vertical slice doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a good game when it's actually fleshed out into an actual game. And I think a good example of this is when I said PUBG, Sea of Thieves was going to be the next PUBG, because I'd seen an in-game trailer that used the in-engine assets, and it was from the point of view of the Kraken, right? It was from the point of view of the Kraken. Now we know the Kraken doesn't have a body, right?
Kraken is lacking.
No, the Kraken is lacking. The Kraken is just tentacles and stuff like that. But that sort of like little teaser got my imagination going, and it sort of made me imagine things that potentially didn't exist. And obviously Sea of Thieves is a very different game now, very fully fleshed out. But at launch, it was like people were pissed about it, and they were like, "Oh man, this has no content." Blah 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 blah. We all know the story. But like that whole incident kind of reminded me that a vertical slice sizzle reel can be very different to the finished product, and maybe it just wouldn't be fun. I mean, I'm sure if some of these like some of these other games that flopped might have looked really great in trailers when they were showing them off internally or conceptually or whatever, and then the reality is very different. But I don't know. Service games are hard to get right, and we know this because of how many have been cancelled over the last few years.
Sony's having a tough time with them, right? Even though Helldivers 2 is doing pretty damn well and is bucked the trend of games as a service kind of. Suicide Squad didn't do well, and Skull and Bones did poorly, but Helldivers doing great. But then you hear about, Sony canceled a Games as a Service Spider-Man game, and they canceled a Last of Us Factions game, and then you look at the success of Helldivers, and you're like, maybe those games would have been successful. But then, what is the games as a service push at PlayStation a complete, utter failure?
Well, this is the thing, right? This is the thing. Like, Microsoft was willing to launch a 6 out of 10 Sea of Thieves in order to grow it into a 9 out of 10 premier service title, They were willing to do that. Is Sony willing to launch a 6 out of 10 game that could eventually become a 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10 game? That sometimes you have to do that, if you want to build the service game. It's hard to invest in the content up front and expect, the game to be fully fleshed out with all those results. That's why so many of them launch into early access. I got an email today that V Rising is coming out of early access, and I was like, man, how long has that game been in early access? I feel like I played that years ago. And Pal World's in early access technically. It's not often where service games launch finished. I kind of feel like, actually, this is kind of funny. I was speaking to a Microsoft executive recently. I don't know if executive is the right word, but I was speaking to someone at Xbox recently, like someone, an employee or whatever, and they thought that Sea of Thieves had launched in early access. I was like, no, you guys never put it into early access. It shipped as a full price game. And they're like, oh man, maybe we should have put it in early access, because it certainly played a bit like an early access game. Is Sony willing to do that? Do you think they should do that? Do you think both publishers should take more risks and use the early access model, or will people be like, because this person was like, well, if we had done early access, people would have clowned on Microsoft for it.
They would have.
Yeah. But maybe they should have done. Maybe that's the right the right thing to do, rather than release a game into 6 out of 10 hate parade stuff. Why not just be like, yeah, it's early access for now because we're a smaller studio and we cash flow in the studio by releasing this into early access, because that's basically what early access is. Pays for the game's development and also helps get feedback on the game and find its identity and find its community early on, for a discount. I think I really like that business model, and it's worked out really well for some games.
Yeah.
Do you think Microsoft and Sony should do that?
I mean, should they? I don't know.
You care? Does it make you mad if they release a game in early access?
It wouldn't make me mad. Grounded made sense. They launched Grounded in early access, and it made sense because the whole thing was it's being made by 12 people, right?
Yeah.
Rare launching Sea of Thieves in early access of a studio of that size. It's kind of like, I don't know. Usually you see early access of studios that are of a smaller nature and that need the cash flow.
Rare wasn't that big.
Well, they're definitely bigger than the team that work on Grounded.
Yeah, okay, of course.
I don't know. I sort of also feel like nowadays, like with the market being as saturated it is with live service stuff, that it's very difficult to launch what you would call a 6 out of 10 and build it back up to be where you're at because of just all the competition. Like, at least, like, when you look at, like, Sea of Thieves, sure, it launched to mid-league reviews, and there wasn't a lot to do, but because of its unique aspect, people kept on playing the game because there was nothing like it on the market. And eventually, over time, more stuff was added, more people kept on playing it, they made more money, and they kept on working on it, and to what it is today, right? But I wonder if that game was like strictly a shooter that was competing with the Fortnites and the Halos and the Battlefields and the Call of Duties, would we have seen that resurgence, or would they have just cut bait and moved on, right? Because you never know what's going to happen. So maybe it's like, oh, we got the Spider-Man game. You would think a lot of people, like, yeah, I want to play Spider-Man with my buddies. I want to fight us 4 Spider-Men and Spider-Woman going up against Venom. But then maybe they're not willing to release a game that's not fun to play. Maybe what makes Spider-Man really fun is the single player aspect of it, and you sort of lose that when combined with the group of people. Maybe it's too chaotic to keep track of what's going on, and they release it, And, you know, it gets like a Suicide Squad reception where people are like, this is okay, but it's nothing special. You still have the single player games. I would recommend to play those. And then how much money and time do you put into the studio for that game to try to turn that into, a disappointment into a success? Maybe it's just not financially viable or something that they would want to do, right? Because you look at Last of Us Factions, which was a game they've been working on for a while, and it seems like that game was destined for success until Bungie said otherwise or whatever other reasons, and they'd rather go back to working on single player, mainly because you don't know how your well-reviewed your game's going to be when it comes out and how many people are going to be able to play it. And if your game is just seen as one of many among others, well, now your whole studio's future is bent around this particular game, and you can spend all this time and money on it, but there's no chance, a guarantee that you're ever, it's ever going to catch, fire again, right? You get one chance at a good, at a first impression, and some games fumble that and they never recover. And then Naughty Dog as a studio might have been sort of, man, I don't know what we're gonna do. Because then if you could pivot back to single player, but then that's going to take a while because their games take a while to make. AAA games do. And Sony may just be I don't know, this games as a service stuff may have made sense back when we initially greenlit it back in 2019, 2020 with rising dev costs and seeing that's what people wanted. But in the year of our Lord, 2024, maybe it doesn't. But then you get the success of Helldivers, a game that nobody was expecting to be as good or last as long. And then you look at how could a Last of Us game not be as successful as that? At least Last of Us has the cachet of the IP behind it. And it could be a new Division or whatever it was going for. Even though it's a shooter, I don't know if it's necessarily directly competing with the big boys. But I guess maybe everything competes with Fortnite nowadays. And it's a risk. It's do you turn the whole studio into that? It's almost it's almost kind of what happened with Fable Legends, where they turn the studio into something to support this live service 4v1 experience. Peter Molyneux left, and then the game just never came out. It was canceled. And at that point, it's leadership's already gone from Lionhead. The studio's been transitioned to support this particular type of game. Is it easier just to close the studio instead of trying to figure out what's next for them,
Yeah, or trying to figure out, or launching it in early access and trying to figure out how to make it a fun game after the fact. I mean, yeah... Game development is tough. It's interesting, as we've done this podcast over the years, how you sort of your view of game development changes over time, and you start to become more aware of things I don't know, costs and all these other stuff that nobody really wants to talk about. And it's the emotional response is to be angry about XYZ, and this game is cancelled, so I'm angry. Well, that game is cancelled, so I'm angry. But then you get into the weeds about why things get cancelled and all that kind of stuff. And it sort of sucks the emotion out of it, because it does end up, usually a lot of the time, it does end up just being math related, which is boring. It's boring, but it's also the reality of the situation. Games have to make money.
Hey, we got breaking news. You mentioned Tom Henderson. Why he hasn't leaked the PlayStation 5 specs?
Okay.
He just did. Not only that, he also released a time frame, and it's no longer releasing this year. It's releasing next year.
Oh shit.
He put an article out just now. PS5 Pro specs leaks are real, releasing holiday 2025.
Are they real? 64 teraflops?
So Insider Gaming can confirm that the leaked PS5 Pro specs leaked earlier today are real, and the PlayStation 5 is still tentatively targeting a 2025 holiday release. I thought that was supposed to be this year. Wasn't the whole thing was supposed to be this holiday? But
I don't know.
I mean, I guess it's coming out next holiday, which I guess makes more sense considering that's when Grand Theft Auto 6 is coming. Speaking with sources who wish to remain anonymous because they are not authorized to talk about the company plans, we can confirm that the leaked documentation from the YouTube channel Moore's Law is Dead is real. Despite the criticism of the leaker and the leaked specs, Insider Gaming can confirm that documentation leaked is from a PlayStation developer portal, which was sent out this week to a wider band of third-party developers. That's why it all kind of leaks.
Oh,
so today's leaked documentation is also confirmed. Rendering is 45% faster than PS5. It has 2 to 3 times better ray tracing, times 4 in some cases. It has 33.5 teraflops. PSR, which is PlayStation Spectral Resolution Upscaling, anti-assailing solution. Support for resolutions up to 8K is planned for future SDK. Custom machine learning architecture, and it has an AI accelerator supporting 300 TOPS of 8-bit computation. He says, Insider Gaming, who's also shared documentation from the developer portal under the condition that it's not shared publicly or privately, can also confirm that dev kits have been available to first-party studios since September of 2023, third parties since January of 2024, and from spring 2024, test kits will also be available, which will be identical to the final product. Insider Gaming also understands that the PS5 Pro is currently aiming for a tentative holiday 2025 release, but the date could be changed due to the lack of first-party games released on the PlayStation 5 this year. Well, I don't know. He says that, but then he has 2025 in the title, so I don't know if he's still... Oh, no, he changed it. He just changed the title. Releasing Holiday 2024. Originally, he had Holiday 2025. Now, I just refreshed it, and everything's changed to 2024. Typo. So,
Typo. Yeah.
Coming out this year.
Happens.
So, there you go.
There you go. There you have it. And Microsoft's probably not going to have a response to that, I think. So...
Yeah, so...
How do you feel about that?
I mean, I would want Xbox to make one. I've always said that. And
super duper all singing dancing.
Yeah, I wonder how much is it going to cost? They're still selling the PS5 for $500.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, isn't it?
Very interesting. How does chat feel about this?
Yeah, that's the chat. That's the peeps. That's the peeps. Because it is going to be presumably quite expensive, I would have thought. Yeah. No?
I mean, you would think so.
So how do you reconcile all that stuff?
I don't know. I guess time will tell. Anyways. That broke during the show, which is kind of funny. There's Tom in the chat. You know, it's funny, Tom. I don't know if did you hear Jez earlier saying leak the specs, and then here you are, like 30 minutes later, leaking the specs. But you made a mistake. You said it was 2025. How could you make that mistake?
Typos happen, man.
Yeah, typos do happen all the time. 2024. 2024.
Yeah.
I'm curious on the price on that bad lad. Considering they running the PS5 at 500 still, that thing coming in at 600 plus. I don't know. I
wonder if that's why like some I wonder if that's why some of the recent games are sort of started launching with unlocked frame rates,
like Dragon's Dogma.
Yeah, because those would obviously benefit from, you know, just a flat boost in hardware. Like, for example, when the Xbox One X came out, or was it the One Series X? I think it was with Series X. Monster Hunter World was finally able to hit 60 frames a second without any updates or whatever. So that was nice. And I suppose it'll be the same for Dragon's Dogma 2, because right now Dragon's Dogma 2 is uncapped frame rate, targeting around 30 FPS on Xbox Series X and Xbox Series PS4, PS5, and Series S, I guess. But yeah, I don't know, man. I want Microsoft to have an option, to upgrade to that matches that, but it's probably not going to be this year. I would presume if they are doing that, it'll probably be next year. But who knows, man? Maybe they just won't.
Yeah, I doubt it.
Maybe they'll just skip straight to next gen.
Well,
it's going to be weird because Sony and Microsoft are gonna, I don't know, be on separate. They'll be on separate cadences, I would presume. I mean, if Microsoft releases a next gen Xbox Series X2 in 2026, is Sony going to launch a PS6 in 2026? That's odd, isn't it?
Well, I mean, if you're doing a Pro model at the halfway mark of the gen, I mean, they're at 2024, so you probably have a new one coming in 2028.
But then Xbox is going to have a new one coming in 2026.
Supposedly.
So they're going to be off. They're going to be off kilter with each other. I don't know.
Maybe that's just the way forward. We need to get Tom just to leak the specs of the next Xbox in 2 years.
Yeah.
He should.
Yeah, he should do that.
Come on, Tom. You got to get to work on the Xbox stuff.
Yeah, man.
All right. So, what we talked about. We talked about the new studios, talked about Deviation Games, talked about like Spider-Man, talked about Hellblade 2. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Chad, what do you want us? What do you want us to talk about? Give us some topics. What do you want to talk about for a little bit, chat, before we go to Patreon questions? Is there anything? How
many Patreon questions we got? Because we might have enough for the rest of the show.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, maybe it'll just be an early show, but if there's anything people want to talk about, then we'll mention it, I suppose.
I'm kind of like, I want to be a fly on the wall at Xbox headquarters right now and find out what they're working on. Because one of the things you have to remember about Xbox is they've had a big reorg recently. Sarah Bond now overseeing hardware and some of that other stuff. They've got a new hardware lead as well. She's only been in the job just over, I suppose it is the year anniversary recently, actually. She started last year in January, if I remember correctly. So Microsoft's had like quite a significant organizational shakeup in recent years, and I know that there are initiatives being worked on that are pretty fresh as a result of that reorg. So I don't know when all this stuff's going to come to fruition.
Infinite Number says, what do these PS5 Pro specs mean? I don't know. I'm not the tech guy. I've never been the tech guy. I have no clue what they mean.
It probably means 4K 60 standard.
No, I doubt it.
No, of course it does.
4K 60 standard on everything?
I think so, yeah.
Digital Foundry was even speculating that the PS5 Pro wasn't going to be able to do 60 on Grand Theft Auto 6. But, I mean, who knows? This
is what I presume, is that like it's going to be 4K 60 standard. And then, like, if you want things like ray tracing and shit, then maybe you compromise frame rate. Because one thing I've been doing for Cyberpunk Rand, I'm going to upset you right now. I've been playing it at 30 FPS quite happily.
Yeah.
With the ray tracing and all the shadows and all the gorgeousness and the photorealism.
But, you could play it at 60 with all those things too on your PC.
Yeah, probably. But then I'd have to play on my PC, which is what I use for PC things. Because I prefer console gaming. Like you, buddy, with your 4090. Which is funny, because I totally clowned on you for that, but then I do exactly the same thing. But yeah, I don't know, man. I just want to see what Microsoft's working on next for hardware. And what are they doing with all that artificial intelligence stuff? Man, if they think like the unique selling point of the next Xbox is going to be a gaming co-pilot thing, and Satya's been like, oh yeah, the gamers will really want an AI assistant in their console. You tried that with Cortana, man. Don't try it again. I might write an article about that. Literally nobody wants co-pilot bullshit on their console. They really don't.
Alfonso says, tell us more spoilers about Hellblade 2. I don't know anything about Hellblade 2. And I don't want to know anything. I don't want to be spoiled about anything about Hellblade 2. I want to experience the greatness as I get the game and go through it. I don't want to know anything about it. Supernova says Xbox Showcase. It's too early really to talk about the Xbox Showcase. I mean, I don't know. I think, haven't you heard whispers that it's supposed to be really good? But I mean, I don't even know what that even really means. You know what I mean? Like, right?
I just heard they've got a lot of content for it. There's rumors that it's, supposed to have a lot of high quality content, but I don't want to overhype things when I don't know for sure. We'll see. But they are putting it together.
They definitely are putting it together. 14 says Summer Games Fest got dated. That is right. Jeff Keighley did come out and date Summer Games Fest, which is set for June 7th. So June 7th, which is a Friday, which now you can probably, guess that Xbox's showcase will be that Sunday, June 9th, if Summer Games Fest is the 7th. So Xbox's will be that Sunday. Are you going to go, Jez? Are you going to go again this year, or what do you think?
I don't know. I actually got an invite to Summer Game Fest this time. This never happened before.
Wait, you got an invite from Jeff? Really?
Not Jeff specifically,
dude,
but I got.
Did he airdrop that invite? I'm jealous, bro.
Well, I've never been invited to Summer Game Fest before, but I did this year. I think they're just going broader and they're trying to make it more of a press thing. But I don't know if I can go just because of how expensive it is to get to LA and things like that. We'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. But would you go if you got invited?
I don't know. Probably not. I don't think I'm going to LA this year.
Fair enough.
Yeah, public tickets are on sale May 7th, so a couple months from now. But yeah, looking forward to Summer Games Fest and all the cool games that they show, and then the Xbox Showcase, of course, to see what they got planned as well. So that happened. Hey, do you remember the Dune bucket? The Dune 2 popcorn bucket?
Yes, the popcorn bucket.
The popcorn bucket. You remember that?
I should be going to see that this week.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go see it this week too. Ghostbusters is doing a ghost trap popcorn bucket.
Oh god!
Where you get like an actual ghost trap filled with popcorn, bro. Is that going to be the new thing theaters do? Is take something of the movie and make it into a popcorn bucket?
I guess so, man.
Yeah, Regal Cinemas to offer ghost trap popcorn bucket for Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. I mean, I think the nearest Regal Cinema to me is not that close anyways. It's all AMC. But I know that popcorn bucket was something cool. Let's see, we got some super chats here. We got one from Dave, who says, "Is there any relationship between the multi-plat Xbox games and potentially the next studio to be divested?" I mean, I would say no.
I don't think Microsoft divested Toys for Bob because they were going to shut them down. They divested them because they asked to be. They didn't want to be in the corporate culture anymore. You got to remember, Toys for Bob is an old studio with a very ingrained culture. They asked to be spun off. I don't know if Microsoft's planning to spin off anymore, but people have speculated maybe Double Fine or maybe Tango gets spun off or something like that, but I haven't heard anything to that.
That would be weird considering Double Fine agreed to be acquired, or to me, it would only really make sense if it was a studio that was acquired as part of Bethesda or Activision, because all the studios that Microsoft acquired were individual studios that signed on the dotted line, right? Whereas maybe you can make an argument that Tango, who was acquired along with Bethesda, is we don't want to be here anymore, or another studio from Activision. I don't know. It'd be a little weird for me in 2019 if you say Double Fine and then they come to Microsoft in 2019 and they buy them, and then just 4 years later, no, let us go independent again. It was what the hell? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be weird.
I don't think there's any relationship between them. We have a super chat here from Jay who says Microsoft porting games to PlayStation is a ginormous risk. There's a ginormous mistake. Why? Because even if Microsoft was coming out with the Series Pro, there would be no excitement for it since games are going over to the PlayStation. $700 PS Pro. Yeah, no. If Starfield comes to
the thing, man.
The PlayStation 5 Pro with those extra 33.5 teraflops, what if the PlayStation 5 Pro can run the game at 60 FPS while the Xbox console itself is stuck at 30? That's a bad look, bro.
You mean GTA?
Well, no. Okay, GTA is one thing. That's a third-party game. I'm talking about Microsoft's own first-party content. It's a bad look if their own first-party content runs worse.
It's a bad look for GTA, and I tell you one thing. I think the PS5 Pro is 100% designed for Grand Theft Auto 6.
Maybe.
It's literally designed to bring in a casual crowd who want to play the next huge Zeitgeist
Yeah, but
game.
Is that casual crowd going to buy that system if it's $600 plus?
Yeah,
when there's a cheaper option that you can be able to get?
Of course they will.
No, they won't. Come on.
Of course they will, bro.
No, they won't.
Dude, they buy $1 million iPhones every year, bro. They can afford it.
Dude, phones and consoles are completely different.
Well, even still, it's the console that you use to upgrade the PS4 user base. The people that are they're in the ecosystem and they're gonna have to upgrade at some point. This is a really compelling, enticing way to get people to upgrade.
Yeah, this is Yeah, this is to upgrade your hardcore. It's the people that are your biggest spenders, the one who spend the most money, who see a new product that they can buy that are going to run their games better. Even if it's $600 or $700, those people are going to buy it. It's for them. It's not for the casuals or whatever. Because the casuals are going to be like, what do I need it for? And why is it $700 when I can just get this one for $399? Why would I spend the extra money? You're wrong on this, Jez.
Yeah, maybe.
You're wrong.
Maybe. But I mean, that's Microsoft's assumption, is that nobody wants to switch platforms anymore. They just want to buy multiple systems and then stick to one specific system that they're already locked into digitally. But I don't know.
Our buddy Donataku says, talk about how your Mario Day went and how much you enjoyed the Princess Peach Showtime demo, Rand. Oh yeah, Mario Day happened. They announced, what they announced? They announced the new Mario movie, which, if it's anything like the first Mario movie, hopefully they get better, because that Mario movie was awful. I know it made a lot of money, but still, as a movie, it was pretty bad. What else did they announce? Did they announce any? They announced a Lego. Did they announce something Lego related? I forget. I don't know. I'm not really up to speed on what's going on in the Nintendo land.
I don't know, man.
The Andrew says, Jez, any info on Squanch founder Tanya Watson with Xbox? Jez.
Huh?
Any info on Squanch founder Tanya Watson at Xbox? Because she joined Xbox Game Studios or whatever.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
You didn't know this? This was news a couple weeks ago. I did not know. Yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
The Squanch co-founder. She left to join Xbox Game Studios, I believe.
That's really interesting. No idea.
Okay. Let us also, we got another one here. We have RDX Son of Fett says, Jez, can you see what's going on with Halo? Infinite is winding down. No more seasons. I really hope there's a new game in development.
Which game?
Halo Infinite.
Yeah, I have no clue what's going on with Halo, man. No clue. I need to try and look into some of that stuff with Halo, but
well, they did announce some things today. The March update coming March 19th. It's getting Halo Infinite's getting a complete networking overhaul with easy anti-cheat, new squad battle maps, including Headlong remake, Firefly customs, weapon tuning updates, stability improvements. So, yeah.
And I suppose they'll carry on doing polish, but I have no idea what's next for Halo. At a high level. I hope something comes down the pipeline soon, but I kind of feel like, right, and this might be pessimistic or assumption on my end. But I feel like the ABK stuff and the reorg has quite heavily disrupted Microsoft, you know. And in a way, they're kind of like reorganizing their business around this whole Call of Duty thing, which is, I think, kind of why we're not hearing a great deal from them at the minute. Whereas like PlayStation's plowing ahead with new hardware and stuff. Xbox is only just starting to emerge, I suppose, from this absolutely behemoth of an acquisition. That might be annoying, and again, this is just assumption or speculation, pessimism, whatever. That might be annoying, but I think like the end result will be something pretty spectacular, you know. But I think like you want a Halo, a mainline Halo, but not only a mainline Halo, a good mainline Halo to launch alongside that, maybe. So maybe that's where they're going with that stuff. I mean, that's what I would do. But maybe they also just think Halo's had its day, and I don't know, man. The industry's in a weird place right now, and I keep thinking like they could do this, and then I just keep thinking, oh well, it's not Genshin Impact or it's not Fortnite, so who cares? You know, I don't know. It's weird, man. The industry's changed a lot, and I suppose we just need to figure out what our place in it is as core console gamers. Because we're constantly being told that we aren't important anymore. I feel like that's what we're being told by the markets and the analysts and stuff like that. We're being told we're not important anymore. Because while there is billions of dollars going through the core console industry, it's not where the growth is. And the growth is what drives the industry and what offsets your growing costs and stuff like that. So I don't know where we fit into all that. And it's kind of weird to think about. Where does Halo fit into that? Halo's like a legacy console game, a legacy core console game. Where does Halo fit into that Brave New World? It's interesting to think about.
Yeah, Sin Vendetta Super Chat says, if you both come to LA, you both should do a meetup with Xbox 2 listeners. It'd be awesome to meet you both. I mean, yeah, we would totally be down. Whenever we're in the same place at the same time, that'll definitely happen. But I don't know when that would happen. Jez needs to just move to Chicago. We could have Chicago meetups. We could do the podcast live from here, you know?
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Let me see. Take a look before I take a look at the Patreon stuff. Any other topics?
Let's hit Patreon, bro.
Hit the Patreon. All right. So, yeah, we have the wonderful people. You can drop us some questions at patreon.com/XB2. This is episode 307, so I'm going to get to these questions. We got Laser Wolf. Ran 2 weeks ago. I'll never play on PC. Ran last week. Maybe I'll play on PC in 2 years. Ran next week. I really love gaming on PC. Yeah, you got me. I'm next week I'm playing Dragon's Dogma 2 on PC because 30 frames is ick. No. Those are just the lies I told myself to convince myself to spend the money I did on the PC that I don't know what the future holds. So maybe I should just get this in case, something happens in a couple years and I'd want to play more on PC so that I have the equipment to do it. But I have no plans of right this second or next week or probably the rest of the year. But it is funny. I appreciate that comment. That's funny. Silas says, Happy Friday, Jez and Rand. L Gaming Locust. Great name, Mag and Colt. Is that what they were calling me? Yeah, Colt did call me out on his podcast. Colt's been trying to get me to play Cyberpunk. And, just like you. And I'll be like, I'll play it when I get to it. There's plenty of time. Blah, 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 blah.
I don't think you should play it now.
You don't think I should? How come?
I think you've overhyped it in your mind now.
I've overhyped it in my mind. Okay, well, Cole, I know you're listening because I see you in chat. Jez doesn't think I should play Cyberpunk anymore. But anyways,
nope.
He was
You've
like,
overhyped it.
You don't understand. he decided to play Suicide Squad over Cyberpunk, and he was really angry about it. And I said to him, listen, all you got to do is just go beat Elden Ring, and I'll stop whatever I'm doing and play Cyberpunk. But Colt was just like, I'm not doing that. So it's really on Colt when you think about it.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's really Colt's fault. I mean, hell, as soon as Jez beats Persona, I'll make that bet with you right now. The minute you beat Persona, I will start Cyberpunk no matter what I'm doing. Even if it's literally during Hellblade 2, I will stop Hellblade 2 and I will start playing Cyberpunk.
So when I roll credits, and this is like not after the post game stuff.
No, the game's finished. You beat the game. Like, I don't know how that is or whatever. I'm just saying, because I know Colt's not going to beat Elden Ring. He doesn't want to. But I'll make that bet with you about Persona, because we've been doing this for a while. I think would give you a good incentive if you finish Persona 5. I'll hop on Cyberpunk right then and there.
I mean, sure. I mean, I was pretty much playing it anyway.
Yeah, no, you're not. Anyways, Silas says, I telework 4 days a week for my job. We have lots of meetings on Zoom Teams. 3 years ago during a meeting, one of my colleagues' husband walked by, and well, you could tell he hadn't used code XB2 to purchase the Lawnmower 5.0. Oh, man. This past Tuesday, another one of my colleagues stood up, and well, she was only wearing a t-shirt. Being that you guys work remotely, do you have any funny telework stories to share other than Jez's mic snafu during that one interview?
Oh, God, yeah, I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
I actually did used to work as a receptionist. I did actually work as a receptionist in a college for a while, and one of my jobs was to answer calls. It was like an adult college, and it was all courses like, pottery. It was like crafts, learn how to cook, learn pottery, learn dancing and stuff like that. Like hobby qualifications, massage therapy and stuff like that, hypnotherapy and whatever. And this isn't really a funny story, but I remember I was 19 or 20 at the time. I was quite young, and it was my first ever job. And some woman had phoned up, and she was like, "Can you tell me about the massage course, please, on Tuesday or something?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll just put you through to the right department." And she was like, "No, I want you to tell me about the massage course on Tuesday." I was like, "Well, I'm sorry, I don't know about it. I got to put you through the correct department." And she was like, for some reason, she was popping off, and she was like, "Well, you should know. You work there, don't you? I can't believe what kind of college this is. I'm not going to come now. I hope you're happy. You've lost a customer." And I was just like, well, fuck you then. You know? And then she fucking called my manager, and I got in so much trouble. But they had like the whole call, and and I suppose that they were kind of forgiving because they knew how much of a bitch she was being. But it's just like, man, it was like that scenario was just like, I don't know how people can work in call centers and stuff like that, because I only did that job for a few months. I was covering someone's maternity leave, and I was just like, I could not do this job for years and years and years. Like so now it's like whenever I phone like a customer service or whatever, I'm like as polite as possibly can be, because I know how much bullshit they probably have to deal with in the day to day. And then I just complain on Twitter instead, where they can't see it.
No, I don't have any funny telework stories to share about any of that stuff. So, but I'm living, through you guys, because hearing your stories, Silas, is pretty funny. I'm sure other people have some stories too, but I don't have any. Nate Miller says, I've done it. I'm officially down to the final 3 games in my backlog. Whoa. I had my second kid in 2023, and instead of buying new games, I started crushing my 30-game backlog. I'm currently playing Alan Wake Remastered. I only have Dead Island 2, Atlas Fallen, and the new Prince of Persia. I'll let you two decide the order. Well, we could decide the order in the sense of, like, do you want to go from shit to greatness, or do you want to start from the best and work your way down to the worst? I guess that's up to you. Do you want to play a game and then like know that the next one you're playing is going to be better, or do you want to play a game knowing that the next one's going to be worse? So how would you decide on this, Jez? Worst first or best first?
Good question.
I'll go worst first because I think you have something to look forward to. Maybe it helps you get through the bad games. So we'll go worst to best. I would then start with Atlas Fallen because the game's not good at all, and you'll be wishing you didn't start it, but you'll have other 2 games to look forward to. So play Atlas Fallen.
I would be like, why? I would honestly be like, why play Atlas Fallen at all?
Well, or that. I would recommend not playing Atlas Fallen, but hey, this is Nate Games. This is what he's got. Play Atlas Fallen, then play Dead Island 2, and then play the new Prince of Persia. Go from worst to best. But honestly, you should probably not play Atlas Fallen and just play Dead Island 2 and Prince of Persia.
Yeah, because at least those are decent games at the very least.
Tricks
I've just got a game called For the Warp. Have you heard of that?
For the Warp? No, I haven't.
It's like it's a turn-based roguelike shipbuilding game, which looks really, really cool with Xbox Play Anywhere. Just slap that on my Xbox there. Roguelike, yeah, it looks really good. I might record footage of that. And I also got another game around. Have you heard of Beautiful Sakura Fitness Club?
No.
So I'm just gonna send you a quick link to it here on Twitter. So Beautiful Sakura Fitness Club. I'm gonna read out the description. Kaito's transition from high school to the fitness world is marked by a reunion with Michiko, Yuki, and Hikari, 3 friends from his past, each with a unique and significant connection to him. It's a romance model with bikinis, basically.
Okay.
Waifus. Maybe I should record that for the podcast.
Yeah, sure. All right, so we got another question here for Tricks Are for Trey. I just watched a video with all the Halo cutscenes. I love the franchise. I was wondering, where do you guys think Halo goes from here? Infinite 2, Halo 6, reboot story again, or continue? And what type? Linear open world? Question mark. That is the question. Do you continue with Halo Infinite and complete the storyline? Infinite, like, do you call it Halo 6? Do you do a complete about face and reboot everything from the very beginning? I don't know what would be best. I honestly don't know. I can see arguments for any of them. I could see an argument being like, we need to, complete the promise for the fans. We need to find out who the Endless are. We need to continue the story. Whether or not you call it Infinite 2 or Halo 6 is, whatever. Halo 7.
Infinite 2 makes no sense.
Yeah, Halo Infinite 2 doesn't make any sense, honestly. Halo 7?
It's just a word. Like, how can something be the sequel to something that's infinite?
Yeah.
No?
I mean, there is the argument to make that just start over. Reboot it from the very beginning. Hand it off to other people or whatever, like Certain Affinity. Have them kind of create the new story or whatever with Master Chief and start from the beginning and before everything got muddled and buried under the lore of the franchise, and just have a new fresh starting point. And do you go back to linear levels? Do you go back to open world? I don't know. I mean, Halo Infinite's open world was fun to get around because they had the grapple hook. But I mean, there's the linear levels in Halo still hold up. And Halo and Halo 2 and stuff. So I think they both could work. Maybe you go a mix. I know they kind of did a mix of that in Halo Infinite, where like the levels underground were linear, and you had the overworld, which was open. I don't know. I don't. Whoever's in charge of those decisions, I don't. I hope you make the right one. I wouldn't really wish that on anybody, because you could really do whatever you want. It's just, I don't know what the fans are going to accept.
Yeah, I honestly just, I don't know, man. Part of me's just say reboot the damn thing.
Yeah.
Do a full remake of the first, but not like, don't change the story or anything. Just do a AAA high quality remake of the original Halo, and then maybe do a high quality AAA remake of Halo 2 and 3, and then maybe just go off in a different path after Halo 3 and just pretend that those robot things never existed. I don't know.
CyberRez says, as a proud and financially responsible owner of all the major modern gaming platforms, I told myself I would not double dip on games. Then again, Diablo 4 for $35 on the Steam Spring Sale was too hard to ignore. Jez, what are your most shameful double dipping stories?
Oh god, this is easy for me. Diablo 4 is the worst. The absolute worst. I bought it on PC. I bought it on Xbox. But I also bought the collector's edition, which has another copy of the game in it, I think, if I remember correctly. I haven't even opened the collector's edition yet because I've got nowhere to put any of the stuff from it. So the collector's edition is just in a box in storage. And I also bought the Lilith statue. I don't think I've ever been that out of my mind hyped for a game where I just decided to buy every bit of merch. Oh, and I also bought the Haradrim books, the box set with all 4 books. God damn. So yeah, that's probably my most shameful triple dipping story. So yeah, same as you, Soberez. It's Diablo 4, man. But then again,
I don't have a double dipping stories of like games, but I do for books. I do for books. There are some books that, like, you know, I might get them in paperback, but then the hardback becomes available and I want the hardback version or a special edition hardback. So sometimes it's like I already like bought this and read it and I really liked it and I'd spent like, you know, $20 for the paperback version. Like Brandon Sanderson's, for example, right? Brandon Sanderson, I'm a big fan. He does the Cosmere stuff. He does Stormlight Archive. He does Mistborn. Like, I originally had read Mistborn as part of like his paperback collection, which was $20. The 3 books for $20. And then I eventually bought the leather-bound hardcovers, which are $100 a piece. So it went from like $20 for the 3 to $300 for the 3. And then staying with Stormlight Archive, you know, I had the paperback versions, which are big, and they were like $20 a piece. But now I have all 4 of them in hardback. But then I also have the Way of Kings in the leather-bound version, which is $200. And I just backed the Words of Radiance Kickstarter for $200. So the double dipping for me is not for games, but I'll double dip on the books to get a better version, essentially. You know what I mean, Jez?
Nope. Because I don't buy books. Because books are dumb.
It's quite
books
small,
are dumb, bro.
But smells like a big one. It says, Jez, you often lament the lack of Fallout games. Have you seen Fallout London yet? Yes. New enemies, weapons, factions, and almost 100,000 newly recorded voice lines. Personally, I'm hyped. Releases in April. You haven't really talked much about Fallout London, Jez. Is that something that excites you?
I often, like, I'm weird, right? I often just skip over mods, which is kind of dumb because it's like a self-imposed thing. Like, I was reading today on Windows Central that there's a huge Dark Souls 3 mod coming out soon as well. And, like, these modding teams are doing some really spectacular stuff. So I haven't really checked out Fallout London beyond the trailer. But I do think it's probably something I should be giving attention to. But maybe furthermore, Microsoft should be given attention to. Because, you know, and I already know that Microsoft, I mean, this is pretty well documented. Microsoft, well, not Microsoft, but Bethesda's hired some of the developers from Fallout London, which is, you know, an indictment of, not an indictment, an endorsement of, you know, the team that's produced this amazing mod. So I probably will play it, and I usually don't play mods. I think like the only modding pack that I ever played was Stalker. Is it the Clear Sky mod pack? I think they call it. But I played that mostly because it had loads of bug fixes in it for the original Stalker game. Which, by the way, the trilogy just launched on Xbox. Shadow dropped. We didn't really talk about that. But yeah, I'm gonna check out Fallout London. Maybe I'll record some gameplay for the channel and stuff. But again, it's that whole backlog thing again. After I've finished reviewing the game that shall not be named, I'm gonna go back to finishing off my Cyberpunk run through. By which time, I don't know what I'll be playing. There's like a bunch of games coming up soon that I want to play, and I've just accepted as well a studio visit to a secret studio, play a bunch of other upcoming games.
Oh, secret studio.
I haven't even told you about that, I don't think.
Oh man.
Yeah. So a lot of things going on, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier on the show. There's just so much stuff. So much damn stuff.
All right, we got another question here from Sick and Tired. So, with a little bit of time passing from the Xbox games to PS5 Switch announcement, how do you each judge the narrative that's around the Xbox console now? Do you sense that it's a negative one, where the expectations for the majority of people and those in the media is that the Xbox is going full third party in the near future? Or do you think the narrative that Microsoft tried to put out with the podcast is stuck and is the predominant expectation of the masses? Reason being is I was at an EB game store and over to sales assistant explaining to someone looking to buy a console that they will be able to get Xbox games on PS5, so it's the better console to buy. Oh, Jez, there you go.
I mean, I want to believe that the sentiments won't filter down, but I think they will.
Of course they will.
And I think Microsoft's going to discover the hard way when sales sort of start lagging even more. So yeah, I would say the zeitgeist around Xbox is probably overall negative.
Well,
but that's just my perception. I don't know how Microsoft tracks that stuff, and I think if I was to guess, I would say that Microsoft would probably tell me otherwise, and they'll be like, "Well, our sentiment tracking says this," and because I know they track that stuff. But in our bubble, and as far as I know, I don't really speak to many people outside of our fan base who have positive things to say about Xbox. Like family and friends in the Gen Z cohort, they don't speak positively about either brand. So they're just like, why would I buy a console? I've got a laptop, and my laptop runs Genshin Impact. I don't really care about these stupid consoles,
Yeah.
I mean, this is a generation that's grown up with devices that do everything, and the idea of having a device that only does one thing is kind of like boomerish to them. I don't know.
So I guess it depends. Like the online aspect, like the Twitter aspect, is probably more towards the idea of Xbox is going full third party. Like the real world is probably still kind of up for. It's up in the air because I don't even know if the real world people even know that they had a podcast or any of this stuff is actually happening. Because I've seen
TikToks and YouTube shorts where, these dudes with hundreds of thousands of followers, these nameless dudes just, algorithm baiting. They'll put out videos that are like, it finally happened. Xbox is going full third party and here's what's happening. And it's just like a really short video with no context. And that's like, but that's the kind of content that people consume these days. And I don't think Microsoft realizes how much damage a viral thing like that and how uncontrollable virality can be when it comes to your messaging about all this stuff, But at the same time, maybe Microsoft just doesn't care because they know that the vast majority of people going forward aren't interested in playing on console anyway.
Maybe. Good old Collinwood says, beware the Ides of March, Rand Jez. So last week, Jez was on the Xbox Era podcast, and at the end of the podcast, the panel read out the community questions posted by the Xbox Era Patreon members. I asked the panel, including Jez, a question, but he left before it got to my question, so he couldn't answer my question, so I thought I'd bring it to Xbox too. So here's an interesting story.
Yeah, I was really tired.
Late last year, I viewed the in-game trailer for a game to be launched late in the year. On the video, it said the game was coming to PlayStation and Switch and possibly Xbox. In Facebook, I replied to the video saying I was looking forward to the game and hoping whatever obstacles there was for the Xbox version would be resolved. The developer replied saying that an Xbox version would come if they got Game Pass funding, and that approval for Game Pass had become more stringent. What are your thoughts about developers possibly tying an Xbox version to securing a Game Pass bursary? They said Game Pass would hurt developers. It sounds like more that the developers are going to hand over fist to get some of that Game Pass goodness. Jez, have you heard of any changes, any tightening up to the Game Pass program?
Game Pass has always been quite curated. I did hear from a dev a while ago their game had been in Game Pass for a long time, and then Microsoft took the game out of Game Pass without a huge amount of forewarning, and it was kind of like it's because they needed a slot for something else. So on the one hand, Microsoft is curating Game Pass quite aggressively, and they want it to be they want a specific type of game in there, like hidden gems, indie stuff that's actually good, and with minimum amounts of games that they know what kind of games work in Game Pass, and they're games that tend to do well on Metacritic, So, but on the flip side of that, I think, some devs will actually hold the games back. And a good example of this is Monster Hunter Stories. I think, like, if you look at Capcom's recent releases, right, pretty much all of their games have launched into Game Pass. All of them. Monster Hunter Rise. It's only been, like, the Resident Evils that have sort of stood alone, right? And I think that's an issue because you have to wonder, like, would Path of the Goddess, would Monster Hunter Rise, and would some of these other games have ever come to Xbox if it wasn't for the Game Pass bag? And, like, is the reason why I don't have Monster Hunter Stories coming, and I said I use the royal I because I don't think anyone else cares about this but me, is the reason I don't get Monster Hunter Stories because Microsoft didn't think it was worth giving them the Game Pass money. If that's the case, then that's kind of annoying. But again, there's no evidence of that right now. And maybe it's true that we wouldn't have got any of these games at all if it wasn't for Game Pass. Maybe we wouldn't have got Yakuza. Maybe we would never have gotten Persona. So it's kind of like a pro and cons thing, right? Like, maybe some devs hold it over Microsoft and be like, well, we're not going to bring Monster Hunter Stories unless you give us the Game Pass money. But at the same time, it's become a way for Microsoft to stay in the game after the disaster of the Xbox One generation and really give Xbox some important differentiation at a time where they absolutely need it. I think there are things Microsoft could do to leapfrog PlayStation in the future, but only if they stay in the game. They're going to have Call of Duty marketing. They're going to have Call of Duty in Game Pass. Maybe that'll move the needle to some degree with some gamers. There's a lot of things that Microsoft could potentially do, but only if they stay in the game, And they didn't stay in the game with Windows Phone. And we've heard Satya Nadella actually express regret over that because now, like, they've got access to these chat models and this AI stuff with OpenAI, and they have that exclusively for commercial application. But now they've got no mobile phone platform to put that on, because Apple and Google are gonna, commit their own AI to that stuff, which means no one's ever going to use Microsoft stuff, even if it's better, because what matters is the default. But if they had Windows Phone, then they would have at least had a hand in the game, right? So yeah, that's kind of I realize that's sort of a long-winded response, but that's my take on it.
Okay. I still think it's kind of bad that if a developer doesn't want to put his game on Xbox unless it was for getting a Game Pass bag, I think that's not a good spot you want to be in as a platform.
No, I don't think so either, but I also think the alternative is probably worse. I don't know.
Crazy G14 says, "Hey, Rand and Jez, happy Friday. My question is mainly for Jez. Have you tried the MSI Claw yet? And if so, would you still recommend the ROG Ally? I'm off to Germany in June and looking to invest in a handheld before I go?
I haven't tried the MSI Claw, but despite that, I think I still wouldn't recommend it because the early benchmarks were not great. Intel graphic stuff is also kind of notorious for not being great. I think what you're going to get with the Asus ROG Ally is a much more mature platform, and also Asus have been amazing at communicating with the early adopters, and also they've been much faster updating the platform. Like even Lenovo, like I use Lenovo Legion Go as my main one now, even though like I kind of miss having VRR. And but the thing that I really miss is how quickly AMD has updated their handheld compared to Lenovo. Like the Lenovo Legion Go has not been updated anywhere near as quickly. I like the Lenovo Legion Go because it has detachable sticks and a kickstand, which for me, as someone who's using it mostly for travel, that really helps over the Asus ROG Ally, and also a bigger screen for my crappy eyesight. But I think for most people, I would still recommend the Asus ROG for most people, for sure. But all of them have pros and weaknesses.
Okay. Just James says, happy 7th year podcasting. 7 years ago, you were talking about Project Scorpio and Scalebound being canceled. And Jez always talked about Rand playing Barbie games for achievements. I love the podcast, lads. Here's another 7 years. What do you guys think that will change in the next 7 years for Xbox or gaming? Ooh.
That's interesting. No, it's funny, right? Because a lot of people are like, oh, cloud's going to dominate. Like, I was talking to Colin Moriarty, and he was like, his idea was that in the future, gaming would just be an app or a device as small as a PlayStation TV where you just plug it in and you stream everything. But I actually am not that optimistic about cloud gaming. And the reason for that is it's so energy intensive, and right now the economics don't work. Like, no one's making money on cloud gaming today. Nobody, not even Nvidia. And the reason for that is that Apple and Google don't want people to be making money on it. So like, and also Nvidia doesn't really sell any content through their store. It's all Steam. So they're not really making any money on the content at all. The only reason Nvidia can do it and do it so well is because they manufacture the GPUs in house. And I think their view is like, one day we'll figure out a way to make this work. If there is some kind of big energy breakthrough which makes energy cheaper, there are some efficiency breakthroughs that can make some of the economics work more, I don't know, more favorably, then maybe that'll happen. But we're nowhere near that right now. So I think, like, at least for the foreseeable, I think you're still going to get consoles. I think you're still going to get Xboxes and PlayStations. I think the biggest innovation that's going to come in the near term is all the platforms doing their own version of the Steam Deck, basically. I think PlayStation's got a Steam Deck coming. I think, well, I suppose we should call it the Switch, really. They're all going to be doing these handhelds that look like and the Switch, maybe with different features in different ways. Also, stuff like machine learning, machine upscaling algorithms, those kind of things to improve graphics quality, and also onboard cores dedicated to that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think that's what we see initially. And I think cloud will happen, but probably not as soon as a lot of people think it will.
I mean, 7 years is a long time. 7 years is 2031. I think you'll see more Xbox games on PlayStation and Switch, although that's not really much of a prediction. I think you'll see Xbox make a handheld, which would be the first one they made. I think you'll see PlayStation embrace PC fully, and everything that they make will be day one on PC. But I mean, that's 7 years, so I mean, that's a lot of time frame. And Fortnite will still be as pop. Well, it won't be as pop, but Fortnite will probably still be the most played game by that point, because it's kind of transcended like battle royale to a certain extent. Does done a better job at that stuff than its competitors. And Nintendo will keep on doing Nintendo Tangs.
and I'll still be playing World of Warcraft.
World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft
Will never go away.
Will be on Xbox consoles. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough to predict where the next 7 years are going to be. Achievement says, do you think Microsoft could persuade Sony, not Xbox persuading PlayStation, but Microsoft persuading Sony to bring PlayStation PC releases to the Microsoft Store? Every PC has the Microsoft Store in the front-end UI.
Microsoft can't even persuade...
Yeah.
Microsoft can't persuade anyone to come to the Microsoft Store.
So no.
Without Game Pass. So I don't think so. I think it really is honestly crucial that Game Pass grows. Like, I really think that's crucial. And I think when your Diablos and your Call of Duty start coming there, I think Game Pass will grow.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that I think they need to do even more to make it grow. I think there's more stuff they could do. I think they could commit their devs to being like, okay, we need X amount of exclusive skins for Game Pass Ultimate players this month, and stuff like that. I think there needs to be more reasons to subscribe that aren't just games. And if they are doing this aggressive curation, like is the rumor, then DLC needs to be another selling point. And I think that will come. Like I've heard that there's gonna be a lot of stuff like that coming down the pipeline, where, like, for example, you can get Hearthstone card packs if you subscribe, or you can get all the Heroes of the Storm characters if you subscribe, and then like the skins for this, the skins for that, and they'll do a lot more work to promote that and stuff like that. But we'll see what happens.
We have CJ saying, hey, gents, hope you're both well. Just wanted to say thanks for all the great content you provide. We'll be listening this week after having an eye operation yesterday. Nothing quite like an Xbox 2 podcast. Well, I hope your operation has gone well. Eye operation is scary. I don't want to get one of those.
Yeah. It reminds me of that scene in Dead Space.
Yeah, I know, right? Omen says,
maybe that's a horrible thing to say if you're having an eye operation.
Omen says, happy Friday. I recently had some friends over, and during our conversations, I had 3 people independently mention they heard Xbox is giving up on all their exclusives, and they were debating whether Xbox would even make another console. One of those people even works for a game developer that makes games released on Xbox. On a positive side, this was brought up after I mentioned Sea of Thieves getting a PS5 port and how they wanted to play it. So my question is, do you think most normies think that Xbox has given up on exclusives? Do you think we'll see Xbox sales affected by that sentiment?
I think it's similar to the conversation we had earlier, but I think some people will believe that. But I think Microsoft will keep doing exclusives, and will even have permanent exclusives. I'm like, I don't want to say never, because you don't know what's going to happen, right? But I do think their thought process right now is that we need some exclusives that are permanently exclusive, and I would presume Halo, Gears, Forza, Starfield fit into that mold. Whether or not I'm right remains to be seen, and whether or not that remains true long term also remains to be seen. Could very well not remain true long term. But I don't think Microsoft will go full day and date on PlayStation until things are dire and they've got no choice but to become a publisher. But I don't think we're anywhere near that scenario yet. Microsoft's monthly active users are higher than ever, and I keep drilling this point home because nobody seems to want to believe it. But Microsoft said to in their investor call, which they can't lie on, that Xbox console players, and this is just console, this isn't PC, this isn't cloud, just console, and I checked this with PR, it's higher than ever, So as long as they're still going up, they're probably not going up anywhere near as fast as they want it to, but as long as they're still going up and not going down, then we're not in a Dreamcast situation here. Like Dreamcast and the Wii U, shit was going downhill. And when you're making in the modern era, when you're making platforms that rely on engagement, the thing you don't want to be doing is going backwards, and killing the console is a good way of going backwards, So I don't think we're quite there yet, and I think Xbox will be fine in the end.
Okay. We have Hugh saying, howdy, gents. Did you hear that Monopoly Go recently surpassed $2 billion in revenue just 10 months after its release? Based on how much money the mobile market generates, do you think over the next 10 years we'll start to see Xbox prioritizing mobile over both console and PC? If so, how do you think they would do it? Creating spin-offs of their current IPs, or perhaps purchasing more big mobile publishers like Playtrix?
They've kind of like, there already are priorities in mobile in their acquisitions. I mean, they always said that ABK was really about mobile, and King's got a big presence at GDC. But I think the one thing that's always been true about Microsoft is they like having a diverse business model, and you can sort of look at Xbox as being a sort of a microcosm of Microsoft itself, where Microsoft has a bunch of different businesses that do all kinds of things, and not all of those businesses are growing. Like if you look at the Windows business, that has really struggled in recent years because everyone already, you know, owns a PC right now. Everyone upgraded their PC during COVID, and the PC market has really suffered ever since. And if you look at Windows market share has been gradually, very slowly going down over time. I think it's still something like 70% or something. But the rise of homegrown alternatives and Linux and Mac and stuff like that, the fact that there are all viable alternatives to Windows for a lot of things has eaten into their market share. But still, like, even though Windows isn't really growing anymore, it's not like they get rid of it because it's not growing. They diversify, you know. And I think the same would be true with Xbox. Even though console isn't growing, instead of getting rid of it, they'll just diversify. So I don't think they'll fully prioritize mobile. I think they'll just have it as a pillar in a sort of diversified strategy, which includes subscriptions, includes hardware, includes accessories, includes games, includes service games, single player games, handhelds, regular consoles, more investment in improving the PC situation and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't think they'll quit out mobile because it's really easy to fail in mobile as well. Not everyone can be a Monopoly Go or can be a Genshin Impact and whatever. Just as easy to fail in mobile as it is to fail in anything.
Yeah, and Microsoft Studios they own really aren't mobile studios, so
no.
You would have to acquire a mobile publisher or mobile developers to actually make games for mobile and stuff. So maybe that's
we know what
happens
when we know what happens when you force a dev that isn't designed to make specific games.
Yeah.
To try and make a specific game. Microsoft's hopefully learnt its lessons there.
Yeah, that's true. SJ Dub says, "Hey Jez and Rand, hope you're both well. Jez, cough twice if you're enjoying your time with Dragon's Dogma 2 right now. My question this week is based on the fact that I've accepted Xbox's copium with some of their games going multiplat. Do you honestly think their games going multiplat will allow their studios to better make games? I ask because last year Josh Sawyer said he'd love to make a Pillars 3 with the budget of Baldur's Gate 3, and I wonder how possible something like that would be. Have a great weekend."
I mean, I would love to see that. I just can't see Microsoft.
Never gonna happen.
I just can't see Microsoft having the balls to do that. That's one of the issues with being in a corporation, is that the risk factor makes it difficult to build a game like Baldur's Gate 3. Like Baldur's Gate 3 really is like, I don't know, like a unique proposition. You know, I don't think you'll ever see it. Like, for example, Dragon Age Dreadwolf's coming out soon, right? And by all accounts, Dragon Age Dreadwolf is not going to be like the previous Dragon Age games. And it sounds like what they've done with Dragon Age Dreadwolf is basically make it nothing like Dragon Age and to try and chase a broader audience, right? It's not going to have the tactical combat. It's not going to have, the stuff that makes it Dragon Age. And that's EA being EA. And that's why I've got no faith whatsoever in Dragon Age Dreadwolf.
Sounds like a game I want to play then,
Yeah, but, they'll lose the entire legacy fan base probably, and as a result, kill the franchise and then kill Bioware. So, yeah, be careful what you wish for. Rand! So, yeah, I want to believe that them putting games on PlayStation will lead to better games and stuff, but part of me just wonders, like, how much of this is just treading water? How much of this is just, trying to offset the costs? and how much of this is just getting back to zero, rather than being in the negative. So the cost of everything has just gone really up, and that's why we see constant microtransactions and all these other monetization methods that nobody wants, and it's because costs have all gone up and other things. And I don't know if it does lead to better games. I hope it does, but I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. A lot of this stuff is wait and see. Wait and see how it plays out. Wait and see what benefits it actually does bring to Xbox fans, if anything, or if nothing. Yeah.
Maybe more revenue to make more games.
That's what I mean. Like that's the benefit of it. Would be more money for Rare to do more updates on Sea of Thieves. Make a bigger team. Get the game to the next level. Maybe make a sequel. I think Sea of Thieves probably needs a sequel.
I don't know. Did you see what Payday 3 is going through right now? The problem is Payday 3 on Steam is like 500 people are playing it because the whole community just went back to Payday 2. That's the sort of thing you run with. If the only way they could do a Sea of Thieves 2 is if they also shut down Sea of Thieves at the same time. Where they essentially pulled an Overwatch, where you can't go back to Sea of Thieves 1. This is Sea of Thieves. I don't know, because the Payday people are just like, no, screw it, because the CEO got ousted from Starbreeze. Because everybody was like, screw Payday 3, we're gonna go back to Payday 2, because it's hard to compete with your own game where you have built 10 years of platform features and game features on it, and you're launching something brand new, and that would be something you would, if they ever did a Sea of Thieves 2, would they be competing with themselves in a game that they had spent like 10 years in making?
And Cities Skylines went through this too. Like Cities Skylines 2 just doesn't have any of the content that Cities Skylines 1 did.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are just like, well, I'm going to play Cities Skylines 2 because I got $1,000 worth of DLC attached to this game. So maybe you're right. But I think there are some things that, like, I think sequels done right can really differentiate themselves, and do things that the base game couldn't due to technology constraints and stuff like that. I don't know, but
we got Lee Sanders saying, so if you could pick a dream partnership between a studio and IP, what would you pick? A few of mine: People Can Fly and Starship Troopers, Remedy and True Detective, Playground Games, and Fast and the Furious.
The Coalition and StarCraft.
I knew you'd say that.
Yeah, that would be sick.
What would be like a horror one? The Tango Gameworks and what's like a horror IP that hasn't really been made into a game? Because they could do it. I don't know. This question kind of got me stumped. I'm trying to think.
Thing?
Oh, like, I guess for me, it'd be like maybe Mistborn. But who would I want?
What did they make?
That's a book. He said an IP that you would want, and then who you would match it with the studio. It'd be Mistborn, but who would you, maybe Mistborn and Remedy. I guess maybe you could do it. Remedy could do it justice. That'd be one. Mistborn and some studio, but I don't know who. Maybe Mistborn and Insomniac. That'd be good.
Trying to think. I mean, a lot of them are kind of happening. Like, I mean, I would have said like Warhammer 40k and the Coalition, but it looks like Saber Interactive's got that nailed down. Yeah. And obviously they've escaped Embracer Group, so I've got more faith in that game now. Because they've probably got some investment to keep things going for a while. Man, that has me stumped. Honestly, don't know. I don't know.
We have 09C Mine. Hello, gentlemen. Hope you're both doing well. I just wondered what your favorite game was of each Xbox generation. So for mine, OG Xbox was Halo 2. For the 360, I think I've always said it was BioShock. The Xbox One gen would be Ori and the Will of the Wisps. And this gen so far, what's the best game this gen? Elden Ring? Alan Wake 2? Elden Ring, probably? What would be yours, Jez?
Well, I didn't play very much on the original Xbox.
Okay, well then you don't need to say one.
Metal Gear Solid 3 was on the original Xbox, right? I'm not misremembering that.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I think I played Metal Gear Solid 3 on the original Xbox.
What would be your favorite 360 game?
360 game, Dragon Age Origins.
Okay,
definitely.
Okay. Xbox One.
Monster Hunter World.
Okay,
definitely.
And
Iceborne.
Current gen.
Current gen is Cyberpunk 2077.
Well, didn't current gen launch as an Xbox One game or no? But I mean, it's cross. I mean, all right, I'll give you it. I'll give you
cross-gen.
I'll give you it.
I mean, I'm gonna count this cross-gen because the Xbox One version was so shouldn't have released. So I'm just gonna pretend that it's next gen only.
Banana Peel Jack says Jason Schreier had an article speculating Helldivers 2 has sold 8 million copies, and the hand waving from PlayStation fanboys about day one PC releases is hilarious. Rand, embrace your 4090. PC is the future. No, you will not tell me what to do. Good on Helldivers 2. 8 million copies. The ROI in that game's got to be way more than the ROI in any of the PlayStation games that they've put out this year or this generation. Wouldn't you think? I bet you the ROI in that's better than Spider-Man, than God of War, or any of their games. Right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there will be some extra overheads because paying royalties out to the studio directly, maybe, but I think the return on investment is
still
if
it's sold 8 million copies already in a month. It took Spider-Man 2 5 months to sell 10 million. And that also has royalties they have to pay to Disney. So you're saying
Helldivers... there's microtransactions in Helldivers.
Yeah, so you're saying like Helldivers 2's already matched what Spider-Man 2 did in 5 months in 1 month? Come on.
Yeah.
Donataku.
Yeah, there's no contest. That has to be... Sony's going to take that as a signal to day and day on PC, for sure.
Yeah, but would you want to do that with this PS5 Pro coming up? I don't know. People might just be like, I'm going to get a PC. Maybe they wait a couple years to fully... Obviously, they're going to do it with their live service stuff, but maybe with their single-player stuff, they take a little bit more time. I don't know. We'll see. Donataku says, what up, y'all? Outside of Halo and Gears, what Xbox first-party IP needs a spin-off, and what kind of genre would you guys make it? What kind of... Interesting.
I'd make a Gears of War Tactics game.
He said outside of Halo and Gears.
You could call it Gears Tactics.
He said outside of Halo and Gears.
Okay, then how about this? A Forza first-person shooter.
How would that even work?
With Vin Diesel's the main character.
Maybe you could do...
That's interesting.
Maybe you could do like a Forza narrative adventure racing game, kind of like the Run did. Need for Speed did with the Run. But that still wouldn't work. A different genre? What game would work in another...
A lot of people always talk about, like, what would a Halo Flood...
Yeah, like a Halo horror
like.
game. Or, I'm trying to think. Would Hellblade work in anything else?
I mean, one of the obvious ones is StarCraft shooter, but it's also like, does that count as first party at the moment? Well, it kind of does, but kind of doesn't. So let's skip out stuff like Blizzard, I suppose.
That's a good question.
A lot of them have been done. Like, we got the Halo. The obvious ones have been done, like a Halo Tactics strategy game, Gears Tactics, and they tried to make spin-off of Fable. It didn't work. But that's really hard. It's really hard to think off the top of my head. Because I wonder what an Age of Empires third-person action game would look like, where you play as like historical figures or something. Like maybe Rise could have been Age of Empires Rise, and it was actually an Age of Empires game, but set in Rome. I don't know. I'm really scraping the barrel here. It kind of sucks we never got a sequel to Rise, actually.
Hmm. Yeah, Rise would have been cool. I don't know.
Oh! I just thought one.
What?
I've just designed a game that I really want. I didn't really know I wanted. How about this?
Okay.
How about this? A Gears of War hack and slash developed by Ninja Theory,
okay.
where you play as, what was his name? Was it Scourge? The guy with the dual chainsaw staff thing.
Okay.
His name was Scourge, right? But a hack and slash. And instead of fighting the Locust or something, you fight as the Locust, killing Gears. It's a hack and slash game. That'd be sick.
That's cool.
Was it Scourge? I can't remember his name. Do you know what I'm talking about? Darth Maul guy with the double chainsaw flashing thing.
Look at Cold Eastwood trying to get my attention in chat.
Well, it worked.
I did acknowledge Cold Eastwood.
Acknowledge me. Why does Colt want to be acknowledged?
I don't know. I did acknowledge Colt Eastwood in chat, but now he's like, acknowledge me, and I'm like, come on, Colt.
He's watched too much WWE.
Yeah, I know. It says Randall Heartbreaker, Randall Ignore. See, the thing is, like, Colt is someone who just ignores me on the weekends. Like, we'll talk every day, Monday through Thursday, but then as soon as Friday hits, I don't hear from him until Monday.
He's gone.
You know?
Damn.
He's gone.
That's harsh. That's harsh, dude.
It's very harsh. Makes me feel a certain way, you know, that I'm just getting used and abused. Donataku says, I literally said a spinoff outside of Gears and Halo, Jez.
Oh, shit. Yeah, he did. Oh, man. I don't know any. What other IP do they have? I don't know, man. It's the problem with Xbox. They don't have any games.
I really can't think of any. Like, I can think
games.
of their IPs, but I can't think of, like, other genres I would want them to
What
be
are people saying in the chat? Chat must have some ideas.
Well, why don't you look? See what they say.
Can't, because I'm busy.
What are you busy doing?
I can't tell you.
I'm looking through everybody's like Halo RPG by BioWare, but that's Halo. Conquer Game. Someone says Conquer Game. Oh, Spartan Total War, but for Age of Empires. This is Jimmy the Gamer. Cameron says a Forza, but a management sim where you manage a race team.
Ooh, I like that idea.
Jimmy says Hellblade 3D platformer. Jimmy says a Forza horror game.
What was the horror game?
Yeah.
Where the car's alive? Oh man, I saw. What was that? Was it a book? I feel like I remember there was some media at some point I watched or read or something about a killer car that was like alive. I know it's Futurama. There's an episode of Futurama where Bender becomes a werecar.
Yeah, that is a werecar. That's funny.
God, my brain was like, man, oh god, my brain was like, Jesus, he's really digging in the archives for this one.
Yeah, we got a super chat here from Miasma. Rand, did you ever ask Phil if they were truly going to release Fable with the ugliest woman to ever grace gaming? Abby would be a supermodel next to that. Why would I ask Phil that question?
Who's Abby?
Abby's one of the co-protagonists in Last of Us Part 2.
I don't know. I mean, if you look at the actual model they've got to play that character, like, she's quite hot. So it's kind of like... So it's kind of like, did they just screw up the lighting on that? Or the model or something? I think the next time the game shows up, it'll look better. But... Yeah. I think the answer to this really is just let me create my own character like Dragon's Dogma. You know?
RDX on Effet says, Code Eastwood just said in chat the PS5 Pro will be $550 to $600. No way. They just raised the digital to $500. Pro will be $700 or more. I mean,
700? I don't think so.
I don't know if it'd be 700, but you're probably easily looking at 599.
599.
Maybe even as much as 649.
Nah, it'd be 599, I think.
599 probably seems about right. But who
I
knows?
think it'll be 599 and they won't ship that many units of it.
I mean, they could easily worry about their margins and say, you know what, we're gonna ship this thing at cost for 700, 699.
Yeah, I suppose like if there's not that many units, they probably could make it 699.
I don't know. It depends on what their strategy is. Are they thinking it's going to really help their drive console sales and drive monthly active users, or is it just it's just going to be transitioning already PS5 owners into PS5 Pro owners? So you're not actually getting new users. You're just having them spend more money on a product. You know, I don't know. We would need to see what the price point is going to be. I think the fact that Sony's so hesitant to lower the prices of the current consoles, in fact, raised the price of the digital to, what was it? They raised it from $399 to $449, and how the talk of the margins and how low they are, and how like they had to discount the consoles, and that really hurt, and how they are having trouble lowering the cost of the console. I don't know. To like just expect the Pro to be $50 more expensive than the current model. I don't know. You're at least talking about $100 more, if not even more than that. You know,
maybe.
We'll see. Jonathan M says, "Hey guys, what's your 2 cents on Phil saying Xbox exclusivity strategy isn't changing in spite of the planned third-party releases? Do they still see value in system selling exclusive games? Cheers."
I mean, we kind of talked about that, right? I said that they were, if I've understood that correctly, when they said for those 4 games, they really meant it. It was those 4 games. So the overall strategy of having exclusives games hasn't changed for now. But, you know, if I'm sure that this is why like everyone's kind of like leaving the door open. Like Phil's leaving the door open. You know, I'm leaving the door open because I think I know deep down is that they'll have analysis where they say, well, it hasn't hurt monthly active users, and there's no real point in holding off any of these other games, you know? So that's kind of where I'm thinking right now, is that there will be other games, but not until they've done their analysis, and not until they've proven beyond a shadow of the doubt that it's not going to negatively impact things in the short term or long term even.
Yeah, I mean, saying our exclusivity strategy isn't changing, but then here are 4 games that are going to other platforms says the exclusivity strategy has changed. Because if it didn't change, they wouldn't be there.
Well,
right?
I think that they would be like, I think to that they would say, well, look, we've shipped games on other platforms before,
sure,
on a case by case basis. That's kind of why they say those things.
Yeah, well, it's all just PR messaging, right?
It is all PR, but it's also true at the same time.
I mean, but then what are they going to say when the next set of games go? Oh, well, I swear, guys, the exclusivity stuff hasn't changed, even though here's another set of games that are going. I mean,
well, it's not going to be a set of games. I think it's going to just be one
well,
game.
I'm just saying, like, the next game, whether it's, say, something like Microsoft Flight Sim or something like Gears Collection, you can't keep on saying nothing's changed when clearly something has. I mean, you could make the argument, it's just these 4, and these are the only 4 that ever go. But it's not a change, and then, okay, moving forward, none of the other games go. Okay, that was true. But if you're saying strategy's not changing, it's these 4, but then, like, all of a sudden other games start showing up, whether they're in sets or not, it shows that, no, the strategy did change. Because if it was a year ago or 2 years ago, those games wouldn't be coming into other platforms. So the strategy's changed. You know?
Yeah.
Tate Master Jiu-Jitsu says, PS5 Pro about to run Xbox games way better. Yeah, possibly. Sea of Thieves, 240 frames. Ooh. Thaneros says, When do you think PlayStation will go third party? You mean like day one on PC? Probably some years from now. Maybe next year. Maybe the year after. I mean, full third party. Like when do you think PlayStation will put games on Xbox? I mean, I wouldn't say never. Never say never, because we've seen the industry change so much.
Yeah.
Maybe 8 years, 10 years. I don't know. Huffy Bear says, Jez, I believe in you. You can finish Persona 5. You got to believe her, Jez.
Bless you.
Supernova says, Ori series is the best games from the X1 gen. Way better than Gears 4, 5, Halo 5, hands down. I mean, the Ori games are the best games from the Xbox One generation. Absolutely. And Quick Gameplay says, from the outside, it seems Sony is more in trouble than Xbox given the latest studios from Sony closing. I'm intrigued by what Xbox does with their next system. Also, Rand, Colt, and you are jaded exes. Haha. Colt's just playing it up for laughs. We were literally, last night we were playing Banisher's Ghost of New Eden in party. And I was helping Colt out and telling him like, oh, you can do this with the combat and the strategy and stuff. So don't believe him when he says that stuff that I'm just ignoring him. Don't believe that.
Don't believe his lies.
Don't believe the Code Eastwood. But anyways, yeah. Hope everybody's having a great day. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe if you're new. That's it. I think we've run through everything we wanted to talk about. Definitely a shorter show today by 30 minutes. So we're going to end it here. We're going to be coming back next week with either an Xbox 2+1 or Xbox Ultimate. So hit up the Patreon for that, patreon.com/XB2. We'll be back next Friday for another edition of the podcast. So I want to wish everybody a happy weekend. Enjoy your Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Go see Dune 2 and get that popcorn bucket if you can. I'll be probably seeing it either this weekend or Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, maybe during the week. And hopefully, it's all good. Until then,
oh, good.
We love you guys. Join the Discord, and we'll see you. Keep it gaming, everybody. Later.
Manscaped.com.
Manscaped.com. Code XB2. Later.
Take care, everybody.